Chapter 778. Everyone was pointing fingers at them, and the entire place was filled with ridicule. If it was an ordinary mercenary group, they would definitely not be able to take on this kind of pressure. However, under the crowd's curses, the world group's 6 people remained calm, as they sat lazily on their own seats. Only Xiao Bo stood beside Yi Qing Luo as his fists clenched tightly. His face was filled with unconcealable rage, as he stared deadly at Ji Tsongtian, with sparks flickering in his eyes. His calm demeanor infuriated the mercenary groups. A few tyrannical group leaders directly raised their fists as they charged over. A bunch of little brats. You're about to die, and you still don't know how to repent. Let me teach you a good lesson. With one person taking the lead, the other mercenary groups also charged up. How dare you create trouble in the mercenary association? Emo Han Shang stood up abruptly as his delicate features were filled with dignity, as he shouted out sharply. He stood upright as his gaze was like a torch as he coldly swept a few glances at those group leaders. This young patriarch wants to see how you're going to teach us a lesson. Those mercenary group leaders, who were filled with righteous indignation, stopped in their tracks. They felt injustice for Ji Tsongtian, but it was impossible for them to ruin their own futures. Young patriarch Mo. Ji Tsongtian's brows creased. As the Mercenary Association's young patriarch, you'll bring shame to the Mercenary Association if you're together with this kind of notorious mercenary group. Emo Han Shang scoffed coldly as the disdain and cold ridicule in his eyes grew thicker. Blue Dragon Group leader must have forgotten that you mentioned forcefully taking over the mission item. Forcefully taking over the Mirage Beast. This young patriarch is all present. The minute he said that, the entire Mercenary Association instantly fell into silence. The Mercenary Association's young patriarch was all present? The underlying meaning was that Emo Han Shang was also involved in forcefully taking over the mission item, forcefully taking over the spoils of war? Or did he have other intentions? Emo Han Shang shot a disdainful glance at Ji Tsongtian, as he placed his hands behind his back and sneered. Since you've finished weaving the story then, listen to what I have to say next. Let me say it. Xiao Bo, who was standing by the side, had his muscles tensed up. He gritted his teeth fiercely as he made a difficult decision. I've been friends with Ji Tsongtian for 5 years, and I've established the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group for close to 4 years. Today, it's indeed time to settle this. Originally, Xiao Bo wasn't willing to mention about Ji Tsongtian's matters. What was in the past was in the past. Just take it as him preserving the last bit of face for Ji Tsongtian. Preserving the beautiful memories of him and Ji Tsongtian supporting each other. But, with Ji Tsongtian's overbearing manner, if he still didn't stand out and didn't speak up for the world group, because of him, the world group would be branded as robbers and poaching by Ji Tsongtian. Xiao Bo. Ji Tsongtian abruptly stood up as a fluster flashed past his eyes. After knowing each other for 5 years, Ji Tsongtian had more or less grasped Xiao Bo's character. Although Xiao Bo had become a mercenary of the world group, he would not return to the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. But at this critical moment, Xiao Bo, who valued loyalty the most, would not expose him for the sake of their past friendship. Ji Tsongtian had not expected Xiao Bo to actually stand out, apparently wanting to tell them everything. The elder sharply realized that when Xiao Bo spoke up for the world group, Ji Tsongtian was obviously feeling guilty. He immediately understood something. How could the mercenary group that their young master joined be such a heinous mercenary group? They were clearer than anyone else about their young master's foresight. With a chance to whitewash their young master's name openly, the elder waved his sleeves. Speak. If there's any lie, this elder will punish you severely. Chapter 779. Ji Tsongtian forcefully snatched the world group's mission item, but was humiliated by the world group. How could Ji Tsongtian disregard his own brothers for a woman, even sacrificing his brothers' lives to open up a path for him and Lan Ling Nua? How did Ji Tsongtian hide in the world group's enchantment after the high-leveled Mirage Beasts appeared? Not willing to help to deal with the high-leveled Mirage Beasts, and even kept on insulting them, and so on and so forth. He used the simplest words to explain everything. As for the reason why I left Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. At this point, Xiaobo's voice started to tremble, as though he had recalled a painful scene. No one would have thought that 5 years of love would be no match for a woman's pillow talk. Because of Xiaobo and the others' rudeness in the magical beast forest, Lanling Nua developed a sense of disgust. After Lanling Nua woke up, she persuaded Jitsong Tian, confirming that they had the intention to betray Blue Dragon Group. Initially Jitsong Tian didn't believe it, but after all they had been brothers for many years, so he naturally understood him. But Lanling Nua used the excuse of, since he saw her body, then he should be responsible for her, to start a cold war. Jitsong Tian could only follow Lanling Nua's intentions in order to gain the beauty's favor. Xiaobo and more than 30 others were locked up. Lanling Nua took the opportunity to announce to the public that these 30 over people wanted to betray the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group and had the intention to rebel. Over time, Jitsong Tian also felt that Xiaobo wanted to betray him. Xiaobo and his brothers were naturally furious. They had sacrificed their lives for the Tsang Dragon Group. Yet they ended up like this, and even had to bear a bad name. How could these people who valued loyalty so much tolerate this? Naturally they would think of ways to escape, to look for Jitsong Tian for an explanation. He had not expected this kind of action to make Jitsong Tian believe in Lanling Nua's words, even more as he immediately killed the few brothers. Both sides fell out completely. Xiaobo escaped from the Tsang Dragon Corps with the remaining 23 of his brothers. With no other choice he thought of the World Group. You don't even trust the brother who has been with you for 5 years. And you choose to trust a woman who spreads lies to deceive people. In order to make that woman happy, you killed your own brother, without any hesitation. You were ruthless and didn't show any mercy. Xiaobo let out a bitter sneer. He did not want to recall this scene. They didn't want to believe that Jitsong Tian had really chopped off the head of his brother, who had gone through thick and thin together. Going through thick and thin together, for Lanling Nua. He still remembered clearly that Jitsong Tian stepped on his brother's head, his long sword pointing straight at his face, and the murderous intent in his eyes was so intense. When the truth was revealed, it made all the mercenary groups present stared at Jitsong Tian in disbelief. He had not expected Jitsong Tian to be such a deranged person. He was willing to kill his own brother for a woman? Everyone looked at Lanling Nua again. If Yiqing Luo wasn't around, Lanling Nua could indeed be considered as an exceptional beauty. But after Yiqing Luo's comparison, especially after listening to Xiaobo's description, everyone's impression of Lanling Nua was only left with a femme fatale and bewitching image. Jitsong Tian fell onto the chair in terror as he opened his mouth to refute. No, I didn't. It's him. It's the World Group who intentionally tried to defame me. However, even he himself had no confidence in his rebuttal. How could he convince others? Lanling Nua had always been a high and mighty princess who was the center of attention. No matter where she went, she would always enjoy envious gazes. Today she followed Jitsong Tian to the Mercenary Association, just to enjoy the treatment of a mercenary group's madam, to make others envious. She had not expected that the situation had developed into such a situation. Everyone's gaze towards her was filled with disdain and disgust. Chapter 780. Jitsong Tian's face was ashen as he stood there in a daze. Yes, he was certain that Xiaobo would not betray him. He was certain that even if he killed Xiaobo would absolutely not divulge anything which was disadvantageous to him. He was certain that Xiaobo's departure wasn't because he wanted to betray him. Xiaobo was just disappointed in him. Because of this, when that person looked for him, Jitsong Tian agreed to that person's deal straightforwardly. But all his certainty, at this moment, seemed extremely laughable. He had not expected that after Xiaobo left Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, he went to the World Group. He had not expected that in just half a month's time, Xiaobo was completely bought over by the World Group, completely betraying him. Jitsong Tian clenched his fists tightly as his venomous gaze stared fiercely at that enchanting lady, who was still smiling in a relaxed manner. All of you are spouting nonsense. Xiaobo, I've treated you well. We've been friends for 5 years. And you can't even compare to a Yiqing Luo? Jeet Song Tian struggled on his deathbed. He wanted to awaken Zhao Bo's conscience, awaken Zhao Bo's loyalty towards him. But when his pleading gaze met with Zhao Bo's eyes, all he saw was a piece of despair, like a lamp being extinguished. Zhao Bo's eyes had no spirit at all. It was as if all of his life had dried up along with him. This kind of drying up, Jeet Song Tian understood it clearly. That was Zhao Bo mourning the death of their 5 years of friendship. I believe everyone present here knows very clearly what the truth is. Yi Qing Luo's cold voice was mixed with a bewitching smile. She half squinted her eyes as her lips curled upwards, making her look even more enchanting. The 3 elders pointed furiously at Jeet Song Tian, as their voices were loud and clear. What a great blue dragon mercenary group, treating all of us as fools. You even dare to lie to this elder? Guards, bring this Jeet Song Tian, who is spouting nonsense, down to this elder. From today onwards, Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's rights to establish a mercenary group will be revoked. Ji and Lan family will forever be blacklisted by the Mercenary Association headquarters. The 3 elders' consecutive words caused a huge uproar at the scene. When the 3rd elder mentioned about Ji family and Lan family, Jeet Song Tian's expression instantly turned steely green. He stood up abruptly, his eyes filled with horror. No, impossible. That's not what he said. That's not the result. He said that after today, I will become a silver mercenary group. You can't do this to me. Jeet Song Tian's mutterings made Yi Qing Luo's eyes suddenly narrow. Her figure swayed slightly, and that petite figure of hers had already closed in on Jeet Song Tian. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes were eerie as she frowned and stared at him coldly. Him? Who is it? Yi Qing Luo. Are you in cahoots with him to intentionally mess with me? This was the only reason Jeet Song Tian could think of. If it wasn't for Yi Qing Luo, if it wasn't for that person who used to upgrade to a silver plate mercenary group as a lure, how could he have fallen to such a state? You're still playing dumb? You're obviously following that person on purpose, deliberately making me. He didn't finish his words. Suddenly, a powerful profound energy rushed over from afar. That profound chi was like a sharp blade, directly stabbing towards Jeet Song Tian's back, from the direction of his heart. This profound energy, why did it have a kind of déjà vu feeling? However, the profound energy's momentum was extremely fast, not allowing Yi Qing Luo to think too much. Yi Qing Luo avoided it ingeniously as her body was like a black butterfly spreading its wings, speedily retreating. At the same time, Jeet Song Tian's reaction was swift. At the same time he turned around, he pushed Lan Ling Nua to one side. His other hand swiftly pulled the member, who was sitting by the side, placing him horizontally in front of him. Chapter 781. Shrill screams resounded throughout the mercenary union. Fresh blood gushed out from that member's chest. That profound energy directly pierced through the group member's chest. Fresh blood splattered all over Jeet Song Tian. Jeet Song Tian casually threw the group member out as he bent over to pull Lan Ling Nua into his arms. He immediately released his profound chi, and with the tap of his toes, he had already turned into lightning as he sprinted towards the Mercenary Association's outer area. Before he left, he even turned his head and gave Yi Qing Luo a hateful stare. His eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. Chase them! How dare you kill someone in the mercenary guild? The elder immediately called out to the guards as they chased after Jeet Song Tian. For a moment, the entire mercenary guild fell into a strange atmosphere. No one had expected that someone would kill someone in the mercenary guild, and at this time, there were at least 100 high-level profound practitioners present. Wasn't the murderer afraid of being caught? However, it was also because of the appearance of this murderer that made all the mercenary groups completely believe in the world group's innocence. In order to survive, he did not hesitate to use his own brother to block in front of him. Even when they were escaping, they had to bring Lan Ling Nua along with them. This kind of person would definitely kill his own brother for the sake of a woman. With such a person as their leader, if it were them, they would also turn around and leave without hesitation. The farce ended just like that. The guards who secretly assassinated Jeet Song Tian had searched within 100 miles, but had not discovered any suspicious person. Whereas for Jeet Song Tian and Lan Ling Nua, They seemed to have disappeared, and there was no trace of them at all. The elders dismissed those mercenary groups and started to investigate Ji Songtian's matter. The elders did not forget to blacklist the Ji and Lan families in the mercenary union headquarters. He even issued a kill order to track down Ji Songtian's whereabouts. Yi Qing Luo and the others walked out of the mercenary association and saw several tens of people standing not too far away, quietly waiting for them. Something happened. Mo Yuing blinked her empty eyes and said faintly, "Just now, there was killing intent. Did you see that?" Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as her vision swept across the surroundings. Mo Yuing shook her head. The killing intent is too fast, and the strong power is also very fast. It was almost fleeting. She had no time to grasp the source of that powerful force. Yi Qing Luo didn't harbor any hope. A person that even Mo Yuing couldn't sense. His strength was definitely beyond their imagination. Yi Qing Luo's gaze trembled slightly. That person, could he be the him that Ji Songtian mentioned? The one who used the Silver Plate mercenary group as a lure to make a deal with Ji Songtian. That's right. It must be the him that Ji Songtian mentioned. Otherwise he wouldn't have so coincidentally made a move to silence Ji Songtian. That person's goal, it's her? This was absolutely not Yi Qing Luo's narcissism or persecutory delusion. Instead, it was a strong intuition, because the profound qi which pierced towards Ji Songtian was extremely familiar. But no matter how Yi Qing Luo's retentive memory and shocking memory tried to recall, she was unable to recall when and where she was. He had come into contact with the owner of this profound qi. "Goddess! Goddess!" A woman's charming voice suddenly came from behind. Dressed in a peach-colored short skirt, Peach smiled like a flower as she waved at Yi Qing Luo. She led a bunch of ladies who were as pretty as flowers and jade, as she came right in front of Yi Qing Luo. "Goddess, what mission have you drawn? So mysterious?" Peach stared curiously at the mission scroll in Zhao Bo's hands. Among the random missions, it was the rarest random mission. Chapter 782. Yi Qing Luo pinched her brows as she regained her senses. Right now, the most important thing was to find a way to complete the random mission. Yan Zhan and Big Beard should have read the mission description in the scroll by now. They were probably going to have a headache. Invincible Battle Team and Blood Demon Team's mission is really unbearable. Peach patted on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder, indicating her to look towards a direction not too far away. The expressions of Yan Zhan, the bearded man, and the leader of the Blood Demon group were extremely unsightly. They seemed to be discussing something with the scroll in their hands. The leader of the Blood Demon group angrily swung the scroll, occasionally throwing it in Yan Zhan's direction. Then, he couldn't hold it in any longer, and slammed it on Big Beardy's face. Big Beardy took the mission scroll with both hands, and stood respectfully at the side, letting the leader of the Blood Demons reprimand him. Yan Zhan stood at the side obediently. He was as arrogant as he was on the high platform, but now he was as cowardly as he was terrified. Xiao Jin's eyes lit up. "Does Miss Tao know what the mission is?" Peach raised her eyebrows and smiled proudly. "Of course. Don't forget what our 3000 Peach Blossom group is good at." It was a group of informants who were responsible for gathering information. There are a total of 238 mercenary groups taking part in this random mission activity. Basically, other than the World Group's mission, which I don't know about, I roughly know about the other mercenary group's missions. Xiao Jin suddenly retracted the gold coin dart in his palm and gave a thumbs up to Tao Zi. "Miss Tao is strong. I'm impressed." Peach giggled. His gaze landed on the ice-cold Yan Xiaoyi behind Xiao Jin. Her watery eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. A trace of craftiness flashed across Peach's eyes. She acted as if she did not notice Yan Xiaoyi's presence. Instead, she moved closer to Xiao Jin and revealed a charming smile. "Xiao Jin, since we're all friends, there's no need to call me Miss anymore. Just call me Peach." Xiao Jin wasn't a bashful person. Since the lady had taken the initiative to say so, he naturally had to give the lady face. He immediately put on a smile and shouted, "Peach." Peach beamed with delight. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she discovered that Peach's vision wasn't placed on Xiao Jin. Instead, He glanced at Yin Xiaoyi from the corner of his eyes. This girl, what was he going to do? Although Yi Qingluo had sensed that Peach might have seen through Qiao Jin's outer appearance, and had taken a fancy to his inner good looks. However, it felt like it was still lacking a little. Peach stood close to Qiao Jin. She controlled the distance between her and Qiao Jin very well. He didn't cross the line on purpose, but he wasn't rude either. It was more like it was on purpose. This thought made Yi Qingluo's heart suddenly trembled, as the gaze she shot at the Peach was filled with probing. By the side of her ear, Qiao Jin's sniggering was heard, interrupting Yi Qingluo's thoughts. He stared at Yin Zhan and Big Beard, who were arguing with each other, and snickered. Peach, what mission did they get? Peach blinked her eyes and smiled slyly. If others want to know an answer from my mouth, they must pay the same price, but since it's you, Qiao Jin, who asked, I'll tell you for free. She crooked her finger and gestured for Qiao Jin to come closer. Qiao Jin didn't think too much about it. He laughed and lowered his head. The smile in Peach's eyes deepened. She slowly leaned over and whispered in his ear. The mission that they drew is... Chapter 783. Huh? Qiao Jin was stupefied. What did he mean by he was done for? Before he had time to ponder over the deeper meaning of these words, he felt a sharp pain at the back of his head. Pa! The sound of a palm brushing against skin rang out, extremely crisp and loud. Qiao Jin hugged his head, turning his head in a rage. Who? Who is it? Yin Xiaoyi retracted her hand, a pure and innocent smile hanging on her face. Her bright eyes shone with an intelligent luster, but the coldness in her eyes made one shudder. Sorry, my hand slipped. Looking at the sweet smile on Yin Xiaoyi's face, all of Qiao Jin's reprimands and curses were stuck in his throat. He opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. Their eyes met for a long time. Just as Qiao Jin was about to open his mouth to speak, Yin Xiaoyi had already curled the corners of her mouth and turned to walk towards the exit of the Mercenary Association. Yin. Qiao Jin frowned and wanted to chase after him, but after taking a few steps he stopped. His brows were tightly knitted together. He felt lost and extremely puzzled. Peach took in the changes in Qiao Jin's expression. The mischievous smile on her face deepened. The Invincible Guild's rare high-level mission is to collect 2 bamboo tubes of swamp vampire worms from the Spirit Swamp. The Spirit Illusion Swamp was mostly frequented by Silver Plate mercenary groups. Only the elite mercenaries of the Silver Plate mercenary group, or at least the first or second group of mercenaries, would have the confidence to complete this mission. The Spirit Illusion Swamp was most famous for the swamp bloodsucking worms. The swamp bloodsucking worm was a worm that hid in the swamp. This insect was very small. If it was alone, it wouldn't be aggressive. However, swamp bloodsucking worms usually moved in groups of more than 100. Although they were small, they were densely packed. Once a mercenary fell into the swamp, he would be instantly covered by these blood-sucking worms, and then all the blood in his body would be sucked away. It could be said that there was no mercenary that wasn't afraid of the swamp blood-sucking worms. Asking Yin Zhan's mercenary group to catch 2 bamboo tubes of swamp blood-sucking worms? He reckoned that before he could even touch the blood-sucking worms, he would be attacked by them. No wonder Yin Zhan's face was ashen, as if he had nothing to live for. If they were the ones who drew this mission, they would probably have nothing left to live for. The Blood Demon Group's rare high-level mission is to head to the Chaos Crack and kill 10 Chaos Beasts. You must also preserve their internal organs. Peach covered her mouth and laughed so hard that she couldn't stand straight. No wonder the reward is 80 honor points. This was an impossible mission. These 80 points are just for show. Yi Qingluo agreed with this sentence very much. The primal chaos slit was the crack between the 4 continents. In modern terms, it was another plane in a parallel world. That plane was in a state of chaos. This is an extremely dangerous place. The beasts in the primal chaos realm were much more ferocious than those in the Nirvana realm. If ordinary people entered the primal chaos realm, they would be affected by the primal chaos. Not to mention killing a beast of chaos and preserving its internal organs. This task was too difficult for the Blood Demon Mercenary Corps. One was the Spirit Illusion Swamp. One was the Primal Chaos Realm. His luck was simply unparalleled. No matter how high their rewards were, they could only watch helplessly as the rewards passed them by. Of course, there was another way. Although the Blood Demon Group and Ever Victorious Group had agreed beforehand that they would only send out 98 people to challenge the World Group. But during the process of the challenge, the Mercenary Association wouldn't continue to monitor the process of the mission. Yin Zhan could totally let all the members move together. There was a better way, and that was Chapter 784. However, could the Gorfiend group really be so fearless as to help Yin Zhan obtain 50 honor points for free? Yiqing Luo didn't believe it. Otherwise, the leader of the Blood Demon group would not be holding this mission scroll and angrily scolding Yin Zhan and Big Beard. Every man for himself, and heaven and earth destroy him. Not to mention an ambitious regiment commander. If this was any other time, it would be fine if he couldn't complete this mission. But now, their Blood Demon group had also participated in the competition with the World group. If they lost to a Bronze Mercenary group, a newly established mercenary group made up of a bunch of kids, what face would they have left in the mercenary world? Now, the World group's chance of victory has increased to 50%. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she smiled lightly, her half-squinted eyes curved into an enchanting arc, blossoming with a captivating charm. Tong Ziqing looked at Zhao Bo. What's our mission? Everyone turned to look at Zhang Xian. Compared to the random missions of other mercenary groups, they were more concerned about the content of their random mission. Zhao Bo took a look at Long Yun Zhan and Yiqing Luo, and seeing that the both of them had no intention to stop him, he then untied the golden silk ribbon on the scroll. Just as she was about to open the scroll, Yiqing Luo smiled at Peach. Peach, I have something to talk to you in private. Everyone was taken aback. Zhao Bo's hand paused in the middle of opening the scroll. Peach was engrossed in the scroll in Zhao Bo's hands when she suddenly heard Yiqing Luo's words, and her eyes flashed slightly. Then her lips curled into a mischievous smile. Okay. There was no complaint or dissatisfaction on Peach's face. She still had a faint smile on her face, and when her watery eyes gazed at Yiqing Luo, it was still clear without any impurities. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she stretched out her hand. Peach placed her hand in Yiqing Luo's palm, and the two of them walked forward together. The two of them walked in the opposite direction of the mercenary union. After walking for about half an incense stick's time, there was no one else around. Yiqing Luo's cold voice suddenly rang. Are you blaming me? I don't blame you, Peach answered simply. If I were you, I would have done the same. This amiable and adorable lass. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but chuckled as she stretched out her hand and caressed her head. Thank you for understanding my feelings. He didn't want Peach to know the contents of the random mission, because he was suspicious of Peach. On the contrary, she really liked this smart and obedient girl. The reason why he didn't let Peach know was because of Peach's identity, the leader of 3,000 peach blossoms. As the leader of a regiment, there were too many things he had to do. Yiqing Luo could not risk her own team. But I do have something to discuss with you. Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks. A sly smile appeared in Peach's bright eyes. You want to tell me that Miss Yin likes Xiao Jin, right? Not expecting Peach to be so straightforward, Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned and immediately smiled. Not only does Xiao Yi like Jin Zi, I think, you can also tell that Jin Zi toward Xiao Yi is also. I know. Peach was still smiling, and the dimples on her cheeks were very attractive. That kind of smile, sweet and calm, but it made people feel a trace of sadness. A fleeting sadness. While Yiqing Luo was thinking about this feeling, Peach continued with a smile. In the mercenary union, when I saw Xiao Jin being so obedient and gentle towards Miss Yin, I could tell. Yes, Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao Yi were attracted to each other and liked each other deeply. Then you. Chapter 785. I admit I like Xiao Jin. Peach calmly curled her lips as she faced Yiqing Luo, opened her arms and slowly retreated, as though she was hugging the sun. But this kind of liking is only limited to my feelings towards a man. To put it more accurately, this feeling is admiration. She gave an extremely satisfied smile as her tone was relaxed. My liking towards him doesn't have that kind of impulse which makes me want to get him, to make him my man. These words made the expression on Yiqing Luo's face change slightly. After a long time, the luster in her eyes revealed some gentleness. I don't know what good fortune Xiao Jin had accumulated in his past life, to actually have the honor to make you feel moved by him. Peach wasn't pretentious as she gave a sweet smile. Yes, to be able to make me feel moved, it is indeed his good fortune in his past life. This kind of intelligent and unpretentious girl. Yiqing Luo had always liked it. Moreover, Peach's lips curled up craftily as she blinked her eyes and smiled. Those two slow and arrogant people, if I don't add fuel to the fire, when will they be able to recognize their own hearts? This was indeed a serious question. If it was based on the progress of those two people, probably her and Dmo Xian's child was already a bystander, and the two of them had yet to talk about being happily together. Cough cough cough. Why did she think of giving birth to a child with Dmo Xian? Yiqing Luo rubbed her face, trying her best to ease the redness on her face. But unexpectedly, just as she was about to put down her arms, Peach had already hooked onto her arm. I originally didn't intend to bring the Peach Blossom 3000 to take part in the random mission, but I heard that the world group would be coming, so I came. Today to be able to pluck up the courage to talk to you. Even if the first heartfelt relationship had ended before it even started, I still feel that it's worth it. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to speak, the little girl released her arm. Her delicate little face was filled with adoration and love towards Yiqing Luo. Goddess, I still need to lead the group to complete the mission, so I won't disturb you any further. See you at the academy. Saying that, Peach had already turned around. The peach-colored dress was like a blooming peach blossom, drifting away with the wind. Looking at Peach's departing figure, Yiqing Luo sighed slightly. This girl was too obedient. So obedient that it made one's heart ache. When Yiqing Luo returned to the world group's location, the few of them were huddled together, frowning deeply. Yan Xiaoyi had also returned, and was discussing something with Xiaobo. The more they talked, the tighter her brows knitted together. On seeing Yiqing Luo's return, the few of them immediately welcomed her. Xiao Jin looked around. Where's the peach? Yiqing Luo almost choked on her saliva, as she subconsciously looked towards Yan Xiaoyi. At this moment, she wanted to correct Peach's words. How was Xiao Jin slow? He was obviously blind. There must be something wrong with his brain. If it wasn't because she knew Xiao Jin's character, she wouldn't have been able to help him. She was afraid that now, she was going to misunderstand. Was Xiao Jin unable to leave Peach for a while? Indeed, Yan Xiaoyi's originally extremely gloomy face turned even darker. Her slender fingers curled up one by one, as if she was restraining the anger in her heart. Ahem. She still has a quest to complete, so she'll be leaving first. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt that the atmosphere was exceptionally heavy, and immediately wittily changed the topic. What are you guys discussing? Why do you look so terrible? The topic was successfully changed. Chapter 786. On the mission scroll, a few words were clearly marked. Complex grade, experience training mission. Complex grade? Complex. Mixed. Level. Yiqing Luo's hand shook as she took over the mission scroll, and blinked her eyes. She didn't see it wrongly. It was really the words complex grade. Even if it was a complex grade experience training mission, it was equivalent to a high-grade rare mission. Complex grade missions were usually accepted by gold medal mercenary groups. Even a silver plate elite mercenary group might not necessarily accept a complex level mission. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched a few times. Wasn't their group's development a little too fast? On the first day of establishment, they had already accepted a high-grade rare mission, which surpassed the high-grade rare mission, and almost lost their lives. Now, another complex grade mission had arrived. The mission content is to head towards Ling Ling King's tomb, and bring the King Corpse Guard's coffin back to the Mercenary Association. Xiaobo explained the mission in a concise and comprehensive manner. Ling Ling King's tomb. Yiqing Luo had heard of this place before. Ling Ling King was the war god from 1,000 years ago. He was sent to Nirvana Realm by the upper three realms to protect Nirvana Realm and maintain peace in Nirvana Realm. In the end, in order to protect Nirvana Realm, he died in that incomparable battle 1,000 years ago. Nirvana Realm's 4 great sects paid their respects to Ling Ling King and built a tomb for him, which was located in the West Continent, and Chaotic Realm, which was adjacent to each other. Because of Ling Ling King's esteemed status, the 4 great sects' patriarchs worked together to borrow a large portion of Death God Castle's arrays and mechanisms to protect Ling Ling King's tomb. It could be said that Ling Ling King's tomb was a place which numerous grave robbers wanted to infiltrate. But now that 1,000 years had passed, there was no news of any grave robber successfully infiltrating or coming out after infiltrating. Because of this, Ling Ling King's tomb became more and more legendary. Some even said that Ling Ling King wasn't dead at all. He was in Ling Ling King's tomb, silently guarding Nirvana Realm. Some also said that it was the war god's soul, stopping all intruders who wanted to blaspheme his name. In the mission, the king corpse guard in front of Ling Ling King's tomb was also the target which everyone talked about. This corpse king was once a corpse puppet created by the 4 sect masters from tens of thousands of corpses that had died violent deaths. Then, he combined the powers of the 4 great sect masters to set up a formation for the corpse puppets. If someone tried to invade the main tomb, this corpse puppet would disregard everything and take the intruder's life. Then it would merge the intruder's corpse chi and become a part of the corpse puppet. Therefore, this corpse puppet was known as the Guardian Corpse King. Their mission was to carry this corpse puppet's coffin out of the tomb of the Ling King and send it to the mercenary guild. This was undoubtedly courting death. It was no wonder that the youths were filled with melancholy. There was no way he could complete this mission. This mission was actually accepted by us. Mo Han Shang gave a bitter smile as his lips twitched. This mission had already been listed into the Mercenary Association's mission program over a month ago, but for an entire month, not a single mercenary group was willing to accept this mission. Of course, no mercenary group would accept it. Even a gold-ranked mercenary group would not take such a risk. Mo Han Shang continued to smile bitterly. Our group's luck, there's no one else like it. This was the last chance for the random mission. If they didn't complete it, it would be considered as giving up, and another 100 honor points would be deducted. Giving up on that low-leveled training mission had already consumed 100 honor points. The world group's current honor points were only left with 90+ points, and there was no way for them to give up on this mission. Chapter 787. Leader, Vice Leader, what should we do? Xiaobo asked with an ugly expression. This was the first time he was doing a mission with a group ever since he joined the world group. He didn't expect to receive such a mission. As a veteran mercenary, Xiaobo had a good understanding of the situation and danger levels of the various places in the Nirvana realm. The tomb of the Ling King was definitely a place they could not step into. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled slightly as she exchanged glances with Long Yunzhan, reading the same thoughts from his eyes. Let's give it a try. How would we know if we don't try? Yi Qing Luo rolled up the scroll and stuffed it back into Xiaobo's arms. If you try, there might not be any hope. But if you don't try, there's definitely no hope at all. If it doesn't work, we'll retreat. Regardless of the danger, since this mission had landed in the world group's hands, she should have led the world group to give it her all, and not shake her head and advise everyone to give up before they had even done anything. This was not her style. This was also not the style of the world group. The young mercenaries replied in unison, yes. Yi Qing Luo's existence was their hope, their miracle. Even if it was a mountain of knives or a sea of fire, as long as Yi Qing Luo nodded her head, they would march forward bravely without any fear. Because they knew, no matter how dangerous it was ahead, Yi Qing Luo would travel together with them. Furthermore, he would do everything in his power to ensure their safety. Xiaobo and the others were slightly taken aback, as though he had not expected that Yi Qing Luo would choose to head towards King Ling's tomb. As though she had not expected that these youngsters, after hearing about the dangers of King Ling's tomb, would still unwaveringly agree with Yi Qing Luo's words. Then, the 20 or so old mercenaries grinned and laughed. Wasn't this the feeling they were pursuing? Yiqing Luo was indeed a lady filled with hope. Yiqing Luo naturally wouldn't head over rashly due to the dangers of Ling Qing's tomb. What's more, she still had to go back at night to give Ziling acupuncture treatment. Because of this, she had everyone return to the old mansion first, then had Xiao Jin and Yin Shaoi go to the 3,000 peach blossoms, and spend some money to obtain all the information about the Ling King's tomb. After all, this was a place where one's life was at stake. One had to be careful. The group of people returned to the old house in a mighty manner. When he walked in to ask around, he saw Holy Pirate holding a shiny gold bottle and carefully wiping it. He looked very sincere. "Grandpa Pirate, what are you doing?" Kitty Lee blinked her bright eyes. She looked at Holy Pirate with confusion. As he spoke, his small body quickly leaped over. Xiao Qiao's hand was already on Holy Pirate's shoulder. Bang! There was a loud noise as Holy Pirate's hand shook. The golden bottle in his hand fell to the ground and made a loud sound. "My golden bottle!" Holy Pirate knelt on the ground. His hands trembled as he tried to pick up the golden bottle, but his hands were shaking so much that he could not pick up the golden bottle. Holy Pirate's wrinkled face was full of sorrow. It was as if the thing he treasured the most had fallen to the ground and shattered. Kitty Lee was frightened by Stolen Saint's appearance. It was not that she was curious, but Holy Pirate's sincere attitude toward the golden bottle made her nervous. The mercenaries around them were also shocked. Only Zhao Bo and the others acted as if they were used to it. They picked up their teapots and went to the back hall to brew tea. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she walked directly to the front of Holy Pirate. She bent down and picked up the golden bottle. Holy Pirate's vision was glued onto the golden bottle as he followed Yiqing Luo's gaze. Chapter 788. It's made of gold, it won't break, what are you crying for? Yiqing Luo casually placed the golden bottle on the table. Holy Pirate put on a long face. Because it is a gold bottle, it should be kept safe. How can you be contaminated by the dust of the mortal world? This was the first time Yiqing Luo met someone who regarded gold as his life. He finally understood why Holy Pirate would walk the path of Holy Pirate. He was a person who was obsessed with gold. The fastest way to collect all the gold in the world was to steal. Didn't you go to the mercenary union to accept the mission? Why did you come back? God Thief hugged the golden bottle, which Yiqing Luo had casually placed back into his arms, as though he was hugging a baby who was not even a month old, as he asked in disdain. If they had not suddenly returned, his golden vase would not have fallen to the ground. This hall, although it was called a hall, was more like a meeting hall. After God Thief had modified it, it was extremely spacious. It could accommodate at least 200 people. Yiqing Luo invited the other young mercenaries to sit down. She casually sat down next to Holy Pirate and supported her head with one arm. She lazily said, "I encountered a difficult mission. I have to investigate the general situation of the mission before I can act." She pointed at the teenagers around her. "Here, I'll leave these people in your care today. We'll depart tomorrow." Troublesome? God Thief raised his brows as he squinted at Yiqing Luo with interest, as he put down the golden bottle in his hand. "You also have times when you're in a sticky situation?" Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes. "I'm also human." She was only a low-level profound practitioner, and her current strength wasn't strong to the point where she could summon clouds and rain with a flip of her hand. So why hadn't there been times when she was in trouble? Could it be that in Holy Pirate's eyes, she had become a god? As though he had seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts, God Thief sat down next to her. "If you're not a Grand Luo immortal, then how are you going to save me from Death God Castle's underground prison?" "Death God Castle?" Zhao Bo was stunned. You're really God Pirate?" At first, when he heard Holy Pirate shout, he thought he was worshipping Holy Pirate. However, when he heard about Death God Castle, he thought about Holy Pirate's skills. Zhao Bo seemed to have understood something. In his memory, the name of Saint Thief had fallen in Death God Castle for a total of 10 years. He then linked it to the news that the World Group had received a rare mission, and after completing it, they became a bronze plate mercenary group. Then, this mission was definitely related to Death God Castle. And in the process of doing the task, he also brought out Holy Pirate. Suddenly, Xiaobo was filled with confidence for the quest in the tomb of the Ling King. Holy Pirate frowned. He pointed at his nouveau riche outfit and said, "Of course, I am the real Holy Pirate. How could I be fake?" The mercenaries present had all heard of the legend of Holy Pirate. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that the nouveau riche old man in front of him was completely different from how the legends described him. Faced with everyone's doubtful gazes, Holy Pirate snorted arrogantly. "Tell me, what is the mission this time?" Everyone was taken aback. Yi Qing Luo's curly long eyelashes fluttered as she reacted. "Are you going to help us?" Holy Pirate had white hair on his temples. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Since you saved me, I naturally have to repay you. I, Holy Pirate, have to repay kindness." Yi Qing Luo wasn't bashful at all. Right now, Dmo Xian had returned to the Imperial Palace to settle some matters. Something which required Dmo Xian to return personally to settle would definitely be tricky. At this juncture, Yi Qing Luo couldn't trouble Dmo Xian. The information and contents of the Ling King's tomb could only rely on the information provided by the 3,000 peach blossoms. If she had Holy Pirate's help, not only would the mission completion rate increase. Chapter 789. Our mission this time is to go to the tomb of the Ling King. When he said the last 4 words, the holy thief's pupils suddenly dilated, and his expression revealed slight astonishment. Yi Qing Luo naturally noticed the changes in God Thief's expression. Her heart sank, and her brows furrowed. God Thief seemed to be familiar with the tomb of the Ling King. Moreover, something that he feared must have happened in the tomb of the Ling King. "Young lady, your luck." After some time, God Thief seemed to have noticed his own absent-mindedness as his gaze fixed onto Yi Qing Luo once again, as a sliver of helplessness surfaced on his face. He propped himself up and shook his head. Last month it was Death God Castle. This month it's the tomb of King Ling. Then next month, wouldn't it be the Upper Realm? Yi Qing Luo coughed lightly. It was hard to say whether his luck was good or heaven-defying. Even the rare random mission scroll was taken away by her. It had been more than a month since anyone had accepted the complex quest, and now it was randomly assigned to her random quest scroll. It could only be said that the heavens had decided for her to take on this mission. "The tomb of the Tomb King is not a simple tomb," Holy Pirate said with a sigh. "I am sure you have heard about it. It is the Tomb King of the God of War from 1,000 years ago." He did not expect it to be the tomb of the Ling King. It was no wonder that this lass would find it troublesome. Even if he were to personally take action 10 years ago, he might not be able to escape unscathed. Yi Qing Luo brought along such a large bunch of immature children to head towards the Ling King's tomb, and that would be even more dangerous. The mausoleum of the mausoleum of the mausoleum is backed by a mountain, and the flood dragon is holding down the formation. The inside of the mausoleum is filled with formations and traps, and there are also the corpse king and other corpse puppets guarding it. To you, this is an impossible task. God Thief paused, and his expression became grave. "Little girl, are you sure you want to bring so many people to the tomb of King Ling?" "We still have to try." Yi Qing Luo nodded. How could he know if it was something he had never done before? She would do everything in her power to lead the team away from danger. If an accident happened, she would not regret it. If he didn't even have a bit of adventurous spirit, how could he be qualified to be a mercenary? Mercenaries lived their lives with their heads tied to their waistbands. Mercenaries lived in danger every day. When their lives were on the line, they would gain enlightenment and advance. God Thief looked at the sparkle in Yi Qing Luo's eyes as his wrinkled face revealed an affectionate smile. He chuckled and shook his head slowly. He seemed helpless, but he also seemed to have made up his mind. "I, the Holy Pirate, am a man of my word. When will you depart?" "I will go with you. Latest by tomorrow." Yi Qing Luo thought for a moment and set a time. After giving Ziling acupuncture tonight, she should be able to get out of bed tomorrow and do the simplest of rehabilitation operations. Yan Xiao Yi and Xiao Jin should be able to bring back the information about the Ling King's tomb tonight. It was about time to depart tomorrow. Holy Pirate nodded. He stretched his body and said, "It has been years since I last moved my old bones. Tomorrow, I will be able to stretch them out. Don't torment your old bones." Yi Qing Luo stood up. "I'll make a trip back to Three Springs Sect first and come back tonight." Three Springs Sect. Yi Qing Luo had just returned to the courtyard when she heard Hong Mei mention that old Madame Ye's memorial tablet had already been sent to the courtyard by old Madame Yi early in the morning. Hong Mei had already prepared a small-scale ancestral hall in the courtyard and had invited the Taoist to perform the ritual, placing Madame Ye's memorial tablet in the courtyard. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her expression remained calm. She didn't say that she was going to thank old Madame, but directly went to the small ancestral hall. After staying in the ancestral hall for 1 hour, Yi Qing Luo then came out. Chapter 790. Seventh Miss, Old Matron Wang is here. Hong Mei went up and lowered her voice. "Old Matron Wang, old Madame's attendant." Yi Qing Luo wasn't surprised. Old Madame's spies were everywhere in and out of Three Springs Sect residence. She didn't intentionally hide her return. Old Madame had a favor to ask of her, so naturally, she would keep an eye on her movements. Yi Qing Luo nodded, and didn't ask what old Madame Wang had said. Instead she asked about Ziling's condition. Hong Mei was feeling anxious, but on seeing Yi Qing Luo's composure, she could only go along with Yi Qing Luo's words. "Ziling is an obedient lady, and is recovering very well." Did old Madame look for Ziling? Hong Mei shook her head. Old Madame has been chanting scriptures in the nunnery today, and Third Madame is accompanying old Madame to copy the scriptures. As old Madame was devoted to Buddhism, a nunnery was set up in old Madame's courtyard. Old Madame's favorite place was the nunnery. Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly. Old Madame must have taken her mother's memorial tablet and recalled how she had harmed her mother that year. Hence she felt guilty and wanted to go to the nunnery to ease her mood. When she was young, she had done too many evil deeds. When she was old, even if she was devoted to Buddha and was full of Buddhist teachings, it was unable to cover up her bloody hands. "Let's go to old Madame." Yi Qing Luo concealed the chill in her eyes as she said calmly. Hong Mei heaved a sigh of relief and immediately reminded. Sovereign has also received the news and rushed back. He's now in eldest young Miss courtyard. Eldest young Miss? Yi Qing Qian? What were Yi Tianquang and old Madame doing in Yi Qing Qian's courtyard? Second Prince sent eldest young Miss back. Hong Mei's gaze swept the surroundings and immediately went forward to support Yi Qing Luo respectfully as she whispered into her ear. "I heard that when Second Prince sent eldest young Miss back, his expression was extremely terrible, and eldest young Miss's face was filled with tears." Yi Qing Luo raised her brows in interest. Lung Fengying actually sent Yi Qing Qian back. Did it mean that he had given up on Yi Qing Qian? He had yet to recoup his losses from Yi Qing Qian. Was Lung Fengying really willing to give up? "Let's go to eldest sister's courtyard to take a look." To be able to force Yi Tianquang back, Yi Qing Qian's matter this time was not small at all. Other than Hong Mei, Yi Qing Luo couldn't find another trustworthy person in the courtyard. Naturally, he left Hong Mei in the courtyard. She went straight to Yi Qing Jian's courtyard. Just as he reached the door, he saw old maid Wang standing there. Apparently, the matter of her coming to Yi Qing Qian's courtyard had already been notified to old Grand Madam. "Seventh young Miss, you're finally back. Old Madam has been nagging about you for the entire day." Old Madam Wang's lips curled into a smile as she walked up and held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Her attitude represented her ancestor's attitude. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes. From the looks of it, Yi Qing Qian's White Lotus skill had failed this time round. The old ancestor's heart was now on her side. Yi Qing Luo didn't reply to her, so old Madam Wang continued to nag on about how concerned this old madam was towards her. Not too long later, the both of them arrived at Yi Qing Qian's room. Standing outside the door not too far away, they could hear Yi Qing Qian sobbing, as well as Yi Tianquang's furious curses. Occasionally, old Grand Madam's icy cold voice would be heard. "Qianer, the child in your womb. Whose is it? You must tell this old one clearly." "It's Second Prince's." "Second Prince's." Yi Qing Qian whimpered in agony. "Old Grand Madam. Don't you dote on me the most? Don't you trust me the most? Why is it that I've told you so many times? You still don't believe me? Chapter 791. Yiqing Luo raised her brows in interest as her slender fingers caressed her smooth lower jaw. It turned out that old Grand Madam had found out about Yiqing Qian's pregnancy. Thinking about it, she said that Yiqing Qian was pregnant in front of thousands of people at the academy's entrance, and guessed the father of this child. This news naturally spread like wildfire. Moreover, Yiqing Qian had not only lost her chastity in front of the old minister and second prince, but in front of thousands of people. Everyone saw it clearly. How could old Madam, who had always cherished her reputation, tolerate this? Otherwise, old Madam would not have expressed goodwill to her time and time again. She even personally brought her mother's memorial tablet over. Vile spawn! Vile spawn! Yi Tianquang's furious voice was extremely loud. How could my Yi family raise such a shameless girl like you? This child is already 2 months old? How could it be second prince's? Yiqing Qian only sobbed softly. No matter what, this child, Yiqing Qian could only push it to Lung Fengying. Otherwise, not to mention that this child could not be kept. Even her life would probably be killed by Yi Tianquang in order to wash away the Yi family's humiliation. Eldest young miss, this matter is not a small matter. If this reaches the monarch, it will not be easy to clean up. Lady Baiming's voice was gentle. Yi Tianquang heard that, and immediately flew into a rage, as he quickly walked to the bedside and grabbed Yiqing Qian's clothes. Vile spawn! Tell me quickly, whose child is in your womb? Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. This Lady Baiming was indeed an intelligent lady. She looked as though she was worried for the Yi family, but in actual fact, she had grasped Yi Tianquang's thoughts. Yi Tianquang was most concerned about his current status. How would he dare to offend the current monarch? If it was eldest Prince Lung Fenghua's child, Yi Tianquang could still directly hand the child over to the monarch, and on account of the child, send Yiqing Qian to King Ping's fief. But if this child was Lung Fengying's, which meant that after Yiqing Qian snatched her sister's fiancé, she also hooked up with second prince at the same time. This was the royal family's scandal. Right now, in the entire royal family, only second prince Lung Fengying was able to assume the position of crown prince. If this scandal were to spread, if Lung Fengying really became the crown prince, not only would the civil and military officials not be able to accept it, even the commoners would not be able to accept such a crown prince as their future monarch. This could easily cause panic in the Western continent. If the monarch were to find out about this, he would definitely punish the Yi clan and push all the blame onto the Yi clan in order to protect the royal family's reputation. As for Yiqing Qian's thoughts, Yiqing Luo was very clear about it. He admitted that the child was Lung Fenghua's. Yiqing Qian would definitely be sent to King Ping's fief. Lung Fenghua's personality, after he had fallen this time, he had completely darkened. If he were to see Yiqing Qian, this woman who had betrayed him, how would he treat her? He was afraid that Yiqing Qian's life would be worse than death. As for the child in her belly, would Lung Fenghua believe that it was his? On the contrary, they could only grab onto Lung Fengying this life-saving straw tightly, in order to have a chance of survival. If Lung Fengying wanted to give up this chess piece of his, Yiqing Qian would definitely rather die in glory than live in disgrace. Insisting that this child was Lung Fengying's, Lung Fengying could forget about becoming the crown prince properly. Yiqing Qian had probably never thought that there would be a day where she would end up in such a state. If she wanted to blame, she could only blame her cheap mouth. Lung Fengying had probably never thought that he had schemed for so many years, just for a chance to climb up. But now his most fatal weakness was held by a woman. If she wanted to blame, she could only blame him for being greedy. Chapter 792. Yiqing Luo's chuckle attracted the attention of the people in the room. Old Seven, you're back. Grandma will accompany you for dinner in a while. Old Grandmadam's stern face softened when she saw Yiqing Luo. Yi Tianquang's face was ashen, looking at Yiqing Luo's eyes. Although not as gentle as old Grandmadam's, there was no longer the disgust and hatred in the past. He just nodded lightly. It's good that you're back. Go to the hall and wait. The family will have a good meal later. Their gentle words were indeed a great stimulus to the delicate woman lying on the bed. Since when did the people in the family try to please her like this? Even when she sacrificed everything to hook up with Lung Feng Hua, and obediently followed all their arrangements. Old Grand Madam had never tried to please her. Her father had never tried to please her. Yiqing Luo didn't do anything. No, Yiqing Luo ruined her. It was Yiqing Luo who ruined her. But she received Old Grand Madam and Lord Father's flattery and gentleness? Why? Why was she the one who was abandoned? Yiqing Qian's hateful gaze was like a poisonous snake, entangling Yiqing Luo. She hated Yiqing Luo. She hated Yiqing Luo for taking everything away from her. Hated Yiqing Luo for destroying everything. If she really died, before she died, she must bring Yiqing Luo to hell. How could Yiqing Luo not feel the strong hatred? Yiqing Luo calmly and indifferently met Yiqing Qian's hateful gaze. The smile on her lips deepened. Eldest sister has been abandoned by the second prince? She didn't care about the presence of Old Grand Madam, and Yi Tianquang around, and slowly walked to the bedside. Old Grand Madam and Yi Tianquang didn't stop her. When Yiqing Luo came to the courtyard, they put on a show of completely abandoning Yiqing Qian. Wasn't it for Yiqing Luo to see? They naturally wouldn't let Yiqing Luo leave like this. Yiqing Qian trembled and shrank back. Her eyes were full of fear. You, what do you want to do? Yiqing Luo just stopped by the bedside, slightly leaned over, half squinted her charming eyes, narrow and long and charming. What can I do? I just want to take a good look at big sister who looks like a stray dog. She chuckled, her charming eyes roaming, unable to conceal the ridicule. Big sister always thought that she was the real chess player. Now as an abandoned chess piece, what does big sister think? You. Yiqing Qian's eyes widened, filled with hatred. Yi. Qing. Fall. Eldest sister is not only abandoned by the second prince. Yiqing Luo's body slowly moved closer to Yiqing Qian's ear. The chilly voice was like a chilly wind, following Yiqing Qian's eardrums, straight into her heart. Even the Yi family has given up on eldest sister. Yiqing Qian was so angry that her whole body was trembling. Suddenly, Yiqing Qian's entire face turned pale as she clutched her chest with one hand and pressed her abdomen with the other. Yiqing Luo's slender brows raised slightly as she revealed a treacherous sneer. In the blink of an eye, the silhouette beside Yiqing Qian's ear was already standing at the door of the room. At the same time, Yiqing Qian spurted out a mouthful of blood. In that blood, there was actually a piece of minced meat. She was so angry that she spat out the blood in her heart. Yiqing Qian lay weakly on the bed, her resentful and hateful gaze locked on Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo, even if I become a ghost, I will not let you off. She tore her throat sharp and resentful. Like a curse, it went straight into Yiqing Luo's eardrums. Chapter 793. However, standing at the door, the cursed main character glanced at her with a faint smile. Elder sister, you can't do anything to me as a human, let alone as a ghost. After speaking, Yiqing Luo no longer cared about Yiqing Qian's unwillingness and hatred. She turned around and left Yiqing Qian's room. For a woman like Yiqing Qian, her heart and world view had long lost the existence of the three views. To Yiqing Qian, she only felt that everything that she had done was right and proper. And those who disobeyed her and stopped her were not tolerated by heaven and earth. Yiqing Qian was jealous of Yiqing Luo's position as the first wife's daughter. Jealous that Yiqing Luo could be engaged to Lung Feng Hua and become the future crown princess. Therefore, she humiliated Yiqing Luo, framed her, and even snatched Lung Feng Hua to prove that she was stronger than the first wife's daughter. But Yiqing Qian had never thought about it. Was the first wife's daughter what Yiqing Luo wanted? Moreover, even if Yiqing Luo was the first wife's daughter, wasn't Yiqing Luo's life more miserable than a servant's? At least Yiqing Qian had a mother who loved her dearly and a father who loved her. Even the cold and sinister old ancestor loved her. What else could she not be satisfied with? It was just Yiqing Qian's own greed. But she had to put all the blame on herself. All of this, Yi Qingqian only had herself to blame and no one else. In the hall, the table was full of delicacies. Yi Qingluo lazily leaned on the soft chair and slowly ate the food. On the opposite side, the three people looked at each other. After a while, Yi Tianquang couldn't help but put down the chopsticks in his hand and carefully looked at Yi Qingluo. Luo, you must be tired during these days in the academy. Father knows the academy is on vacation and specially asked for a few days to accompany you at home. Yi Qingluo's action of eating didn't have the slightest pause. She just lazily lifted her eyelids and glanced at Yi Tianquang. This glance made Yi Tianquang tremble all over. An inexplicable chill ran down his spine. Yi Tianquang rubbed his eyes and looked carefully again. Yi Qingluo had already lowered her head and didn't look at him again. Wherever you want to go to play, Father will accompany you. Yi Tianquang took a deep breath, calmed down the shock in his heart, and maintained the kind expression on his face. Yi Qingluo's lips curled into an arc of ridicule as she lazily raised her arm to support half of her face. Her smile was extremely lazy, but it also added a bit of liveliness. Her tone was extremely casual, which made her seem even more like a hooligan. Father, shouldn't you reprimand me for making eldest sister's pregnancy known to the world like before? Are you reprimanding me for stripping big sister's clothes in public and ruining the Three Springs sex reputation? The smile on Yi Tianquang's face froze. Old Madam stared at Yi Qingluo with a chilly gaze. Both of their hearts trembled violently. When Yi Qingluo saw that, she giggled. Looks like father and old ancestor still blame me. No, that's not it. Yi Tianquang abruptly stood up, his face somewhat embarrassed. In the past, it was all father's fault. Father listened to Madame Yuchi, that jealous woman's words. Listen to your eldest sister's slanderous words. Thousands of mistakes, it's all father's fault. Although his words were unceasingly admitting his wrongs and almost fawning, but his tone was extremely cold, extremely dry. As the saying goes, how can a father and daughter have overnight enmity? Old Madam timely opened her mouth. We're all one family. What's in the past is in the past. In the future, whether it's me or your father, we'll all stand on your side. His words sounded even better than a song. Stand by her side. Chapter 794. Seeing that Yi Qingluo remained silent for a long time, Old Grand Madam continued. Old 7, I heard that you were assigned to the Devil class in the Heavenly Academy, the class that is known as Waste? Yi Qingluo's fingers dangled the chopsticks and looked at Old Grand Madam with a faint smile. Yes. On the day you go to the Heavenly Academy, Grandma will go with you and ask the dean to assign you to the Low Profound class. Old Grand Madam smiled gently. No matter what, you are the daughter of the Yi family, and your strength is not bad. How can you stay in the same class with that group of waste? As for Yi Qingluo's matter in the Heavenly Academy, in order to protect her own position, she naturally would not reveal a word to the Yi family. Yi Fengyu also felt that the Yi family was too biased towards his sister, and felt unfair for his sister. How could he talk to these elders? In the eyes of the Yi family, Yi Qingluo was regarded as waste because of her poor performance, so she was assigned to the waste class. Old Grand Madam is right. Yi Tianquang leaned towards Yi Qingluo's direction with the expression of a doting father. You are my Yi Tianquang's daughter. No matter how poor your aptitude is, how low your profound grade is, how incompetent your ability is, you can still enter the low profound class. Obviously he had forgotten how Yi Qingluo entered the Heavenly Academy. He had also forgotten that he himself had suffered a loss in the hands of Yi Qingluo. Luo is in the low profound class too, right? Yi Tianquang seemed to have found a reason to belittle Yi Qingluo. His mood lightened up a little. The smile between his eyebrows also died with some sincerity. Don't worry. Although your aptitude is not as good as you Father and Old Grand Madam, we'll do our best to let you be in the same class as you. Look, this tone, it sounds more like charity than charity, right? As if Yi Qingluo was able to enter the Heavenly Academy, it was also because of Yi Tianquang. The bamboo chopsticks in Yi Qingluo's hand, along with the swaying, left her fingers and fell on the table. Coincidentally, The bamboo chopsticks fell into the soup, splashing drops of soup onto Yi Tianquang's face. Boiling soup, just a few drops, it didn't hurt. But that kind of greasy feeling rolled down his face drop by drop. His nose was full of greasy soup smell. Yi Tianquang's complexion immediately darkened like charcoal. Just as he was about to slam the table and stand up to berate Yi Qingluo for not knowing what's good for her, he heard an elegant laughter coming from outside the door. Father's words are wrong. Your words are wrong. After that, a refined young man in a bamboo-colored robe walked over slowly with a warm appearance. His footsteps were casual as he walked to the dining table and pulled out a chair as he sat down beside Yi Qingluo. When did you return? Seeing the man, Yi Tianquang's face immediately revealed a happy expression. Even the elder ancestor, who had always been sinister and taciturn, revealed joy from the bottom of his heart. This man was none other than the second young master of the Yi clan, Yi Fengru, who was known as the steward of the Yi clan. I just came back. Yi Fengru poured himself a cup of tea and took a sip. The smile on his face didn't diminish. I didn't expect that as soon as I returned, I would see Lord Father making fun of seventh younger sister. At the mention of Yi Qingluo, the happiness on Yi Tianquang's face froze. He lifted his sleeves and wiped his face, wiping away that greasy touch. Making fun? Yi Fengru was slightly startled and immediately looked at Yi Qingluo meaningfully. Seventh younger sister didn't tell Lord Father and old ancestor about your own deeds? Yi Qingluo's slender brows slightly raised as she met his pair of warm eyes. Her eyes were covered with a faint layer of deep thought. Chapter 795. Yi Qingluo's lips curled up slightly. The smile on her face was the kind of innocence and sweetness that someone of her age should have. Second brother. Her sweet voice was crisp and pleasing to the ear. Yi Tianquang and old grandmadam were stunned. One must know that ever since Yi Qingluo returned, they had been thinking of ways and means to please her. But they didn't get any good words from her. Yi Fengru smiled more elegantly. Seventh sister. Last time, Yi Fengyu had been deliberately humiliated by Madame Yuqi, and had knelt to the point where his legs were almost crippled. Yi Fengru had appeared and said a few words to help Yi Fengyu, giving him the best opportunity for treatment. No matter what purpose Yi Fengru had, he helped her, that was the truth. If there were no other accidents, Yi Qingluo would choose the right time to repay him. Second brother. What did you just say about seventh brother? The great ancestor frowned slightly. He kept thinking about what Yi Fengru had just said. It seemed to be hinting at something to Yi Qingluo. Yi Fengru slowly leaned back, looking calm and smiling. Old grandmadam and father want seventh sister to enter Earth Profound Class 1? Old grandmadam nodded. Devil class is not suitable, she wanted to say. Not suitable for the Yi family's reputation. But when she saw Yi Qingluo's smiling face, she immediately changed her words. Devil class is not suitable for seventh sister. Even if her strength is not enough, low profound class 1 is more than enough. Uft! Yi Fengru laughed loudly. His face, which was as gentle as jade, appeared even more carefree and casual. Old grandmadam and Yi Tianquang had long been used to his character, and didn't say anything. Yi Fengru waved the fan in his hand. His laughter became more wanton. Seventh sister doesn't even look at the class of gods, not to mention low profound class 1. When these words came out, old grandmadam and Yi Tianquang were stunned. What did these words mean? Not even looking at the class of gods. Did Yi Qingluo have the qualifications to enter the class of gods? Seventh younger sister is an influential figure in the Heavenly Academy. 2 of the best instructors in the academy had jointly written a petition to the dean to allow seventh younger sister to enter the class of gods. Speaking of this, Yi Fengru turned his head and took a deep look at Yi Qingluo, who was squinting her eyes and staring at him, as he laughed even louder. Director also had the intention to send seventh sister to the class of gods, but was rejected by seventh sister. With a pung sound, the chair Yi Tianquang was sitting on fell to the ground. Yi Tianquang looked at Yi Qingluo incredulously, his face full of astonishment. The elder ancestor couldn't believe what he was hearing. However, These words came from Yi Fengru's mouth. These words came from the mouth of their second son grandson, whom they had always trusted and loved. It had to be 100% truth. Yi Qing Luo, class of gods? And he even refused. Since when did Yi Qing Luo have such a powerful ability? Yi Qing Luo's half-squinted eyes slowly surfaced a layer of frost. He listened to Yi Fengru tell him everything about his school. She was surprised, but on second thought she felt relieved. Yi Fengru's aptitude would definitely be able to enter the Heavenly Academy. It should be intermediate class 2 or high-class students. What made her curious was that she had never heard of Yi Fengru's name in the academy. It was reasonable to say that this second brother of hers, whether it was his background, appearance or ability, should be outstanding in the eyes of the students. Facing Yi Qing Luo's curious gaze, Yi Fengru only curled his lips, revealing a warm smile. Yi Qing Luo's slender eyebrows gently knitted. Chapter 796. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. Her eyes widened as she stood up and pointed at Yi Fengru. It's you. Yes, it's him. In the eyes of the academy's students, Devil Class was the symbol of waste. As the class monitor of Intermediate Profound Class 2, how could Xie Yin suddenly help Shangguan Luli to challenge Devil Class? If it wasn't for someone's intentional guidance, Xie Yin would absolutely look down on Devil Class. And when Xie Yin left the brother Ru, that he kept mumbling about, wasn't it referring to Yi Fengru? Which meant Xie Yan's challenge to Devil Class was under Yi Fengru's orders. But why? Why did Yi Fengru do this? I'm curious, a talented person like Seventh Sister. Why is she willing to stay in Devil Class, which is known as waste? Yi Fengru rubbed his chin as he smiled warmly. The truth has proven that my guess is right. Even the class of gods is unable to attract Seventh Sister to leave. It can be seen that Devil Class must have some extraordinary magical power. This man's sensitivity was a little too strong. All the mysteries, I think. The interclass competition 7 months later will be revealed. Yi Fengru smiled as his fingers that were tapping on the table became lighter. This second brother of hers was not an ordinary person. Seeing Yi Tianquang and old madam, wanting to ask her about the class of gods, Yi Qing Luo got up directly and left the hall without saying a word. At night, Yi Qing Luo gave Ziling acupuncture treatment and confirmed that Ziling's leg was healing at an extremely fast speed before she was relieved. She passed Hong Mei 3 days' worth of medicinal herbs and reminded Ziling that she could get off the bed tomorrow and do her recovery on her own. Finally, she passed Ziling a profound qi mental cultivation method and sword manual and rushed over to the old mansion. The old mansion was brightly lit and 90 over mercenaries were sitting in the hall, discussing something solemnly. Yi Qing Luo had just reached the hall when Long Yunjian handed over a stack of neatly arranged information. Yi Qing Luo received it and sat down beside Long Yunjian. She lowered her head and casually flipped through the information. It was all about the background information of the tomb, as well as some mechanisms and arrays outside the tomb. The first piece of information made Yi Qing Luo take a few more glances. The delicate handwriting was obviously written by Peach. The ink was still wet, so he must have written it not long ago. The general content was, other than the World Group, there was another mercenary group, who had also asked the 3,000 peach blossoms for information on King Ling's tomb. He heard that he had also accepted a mission in the Ling King's tomb, so he would probably bump into Yi Qing Luo and the others. This wasn't the main thing that attracted Yi Qing Luo's attention. Instead, that mercenary corps was a gold medal mercenary corps. Gold medal. This also meant that this mercenary group was powerful and had a high status in the mercenary world. When they set out, there was basically no mission that they could not complete. If their mission was the same as that gold medal mercenary group's, they would definitely not be able to compete with the gold mercenary group. Vice leader, if it's a gold-ranked mercenary group, we have no chance of winning. Tong Ziqing frowned as she looked at Yi Qing Luo. Just now they had been discussing this issue. It was not a wise move to snatch something from a gold medal mercenary group. Moreover, It was very likely that he would incur the wrath of the gold-ranked mercenary group. By then, it would definitely affect the world group's development. Because of this, they had been waiting for Yi Qing Luo's idea. Chapter 797. The main hall fell into a state of silence. Quite a number of mercenaries' faces surfaced a look of shame. Yi Qing Luo smiled faintly. The motive of establishing a mercenary group isn't for the mission, but to train everyone better. She propped up her head as her expression didn't have much fluctuation of emotions. The real motive of heading to King Ling's tomb is to train you on how to deal with any situation, and not to complete the so-called mission. Of course, if you're able to complete the mission, then that's the best. If you're not able to complete it, but if you're able to learn something from the mission, then it's worth it. After Yi Qing Luo finished her words, her half-squinted eyes slowly swept past those mercenaries who lowered their heads in silence. The entire main hall's atmosphere was extremely cold. After a long while, Yi Qing Luo softened her tone as she spoke word by word. I want you to remember one point. The motive of us doing missions isn't to complete the mission, but in the process of completing the mission, we're training ourselves, tempering ourselves and obtaining improvement. This is the most important prerequisite for us to complete the mission. Yi Qing Luo didn't wish for her own bunch of brothers to be like the other mercenary groups, to become mission machines. To tell the truth, towards these mercenary groups' missions, whether they were able to complete it or not, wasn't especially important to Yi Qing Luo. What she cared about was these brothers. In the process of completing the mission, what did they learn, and what did they improve? The young mercenaries slowly raised their heads, and after looking at Yi Qing Luo for some time, they nodded their heads vigorously as they responded in unison. Yes. Zhao Bo and the others who were standing by the side also had a smile in their eyes. Indeed, their choice wasn't wrong. The world group was indeed different from the other groups. The world group perhaps wouldn't be the best developed group, but it was the most heartwarming group. This was a home, a real home. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as the expression on her face became extremely gentle. Everyone rest early. We'll be setting off early tomorrow morning, and we must use our best spirit to receive tomorrow's challenge. Yes, Vice Group Leader. The young mercenaries stood upright. Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways at Long Yunjian, Xiao Jin and the others as she stood up and looked at the brothers. I'll remind you one last time. No matter what happens tomorrow, just act according to your capabilities. The world group doesn't need people who fight with their lives on the line, but we need people who are obedient. The young mercenaries nodded. After the youths dispersed, only Long Yunjian, Xiao Jin, and the others remained in the entire hall. What do you think about the Ling King's tomb mission? Long Yunjian asked expressionlessly. Yi Qing Luo had specially asked them to stay behind, so there must be something regarding the mission that she wanted to tell them. Yi Qing Luo pinched her eyebrows and put the stack of information back into her hands. What kind of team is that gold-ranked mercenary group? Did Peach mention it? Their gazes all focused on Xiao Jin. However, he saw that Xiao Jin's expression was a little unnatural. His gaze suddenly met Long Yunjian's, and then he subconsciously looked away. When it finally landed on Yin Xiaoyi snorted softly and looked away. Xiao Jin opened his mouth. He pursed his lips tightly and lowered his eyes, not saying a word. Yi Qing Luo looked suspiciously at the both of them, recalling Peach's sly smile. She couldn't help but gave a light cough. Could it be? When the two of them went to the 3000 Peach Blossom group to buy information about the Ling King's tomb, they met Peach, and then something unspeakable happened. Chapter 798. It's the Death God Mercenary Group. Xiao Jin took some time before he opened his mouth weakly. Finishing his words, his vision shot towards Yin Xiaoyi's direction as his thin lips tightened. Yiqing Luo temporarily kept her curiosity and gossip as she lowered her eyelids and looked at the information in her hands. Death God Mercenary Group. She had heard of this name before. It should be said that she had seen this mercenary group's name on the Mercenary Association's honor board. Gold-ranked Mercenary Association, which was ranked third on the honor board. The number of over 9,000 people, and all of them were Nirvana Realm's elites. Among them, there were close to 500 alchemists and 500 armament masters. This was a real large-scale powerhouse. Death God Mercenary Group's group leader's name was the Sky Mystic Overlord, who had the highest hopes in Nirvana Realm. Zhongjing Sihan, the eldest young master of the Zhongjing family, who was the leader of the East Continent's cultivators, was a genius child since young, and when he grew up, he did not disappoint. Now that he was just 25 years old, his name had already spread far and wide, and he had even established his own force. After this mercenary group's name was revealed, even Long Yunjan's expression changed slightly. Following Death God Mercenary Group to Ling King's tomb, wouldn't it reduce the danger? Yiqing Luo looked at their solemn expressions as she consoled them. Death God Mercenary Group won't put us in their eyes. On the contrary, we can borrow their strength to go deeper into the tomb. Everyone broke out in cold sweat. Were they sure that it would be so smooth? Yiqing Luo suddenly put on a serious expression. I'm very clear about the dangers in Ling King's tomb. Even if God Thief follows along, I'm not assured so. No matter what happens, I hope you can protect everyone, and if the situation is not right, immediately evacuate. Long Yunjan frowned as he gazed deeply at her. You intend to go alone? Not necessarily. Yiqing Luo interrupted his words. I won't joke around with my own life. If it was really dangerous, it might harm their brothers' lives, so the world group must evacuate. After that she would observe the situation before deciding if she should go alone. Perhaps she could follow the Death God Mercenary Group to the place where the Corpse King was guarded. Whether she could complete the mission or not, it was up to fate. The few of them exchanged glances, but didn't say a word. Yiqing Luo didn't open her mouth, as she placed all her attention on the information in her hands, memorizing all the information regarding Ling King's tomb into her mind. The next day, the group went to the Ling King's tomb. It was not even 5 o'clock in the morning when the group set off. They walked until noon before they arrived at the tomb of the Ling King. The location of the Ling King's tomb was extremely remote, at the edge of the primal chaos realm. If he was the slightest bit careless, it was very likely that he would miss the location of the Ling King's tomb and directly enter the chaotic realm. It was all because of Yiqing Luo, who had memorized all the information about the Ling King's tomb. Following the outer perimeter map provided by Peach, the group of them stood safely at the entrance of the Ling King's tomb. Just as Holy Pirate had said, there were mountains surrounding them and a flood dragon outside. It was extremely dangerous. Even though they were standing outside the tomb, they could still feel the bone-chilling aura slowly approaching them. It made people shiver continuously, and goosebumps appeared on their skin. Around the entrance, there were still water droplets dripping from the stalactites. The dripping sound of water added a tinge of ear-piercing and treacherous to this appalling atmosphere. Some of the youngsters were already trembling slightly as their expressions turned steely green. Zhao Bo, who was standing in front, looked at the entrance of the tomb as his brows creased. Group leader, vice group leader, are we waiting for the Death God Mercenary Group or going in first? Chapter 799. If the Death God Mercenary Group entered King Ling's tomb first, they would definitely send someone to guard the entrance of the tomb, not allowing other mercenary groups or tomb robbers to enter. Being in a high position, especially for a mercenary group like them, who were ranked third on the honor board, there would definitely be many people who would take the opportunity to give them a fatal blow while they were on a mission. Because of this, if they waited for the Death God Mercenary Group to arrive, they might be treated as a killer group with ill intentions. Not only would they attract the Death God mercenary group's suspicions, they might not even have the chance to enter King Ling's tomb. This was the reason why Yi Qing Luo urged the youngsters to set off early in the morning. If they met in the tomb, the Death God mercenary group would only think of their small team as a group of children who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth and were not afraid of death. Yi Qing Luo called out Shiju and asked it to search around. As for herself, she released her perception and led the youngsters towards the entrance of King Ling's tomb. The nearer they got, the more they sensed a damp smell along with the Yin wind. That smell was extremely strange, as it filled their nostrils with a musty stench, making one's stomach churn. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased. Even though she had been on countless of bloody corpses on the battlefield, and had smelled all kinds of corpse stench, towards this smell, she was not used to it. The brothers behind her would probably find it harder to adapt. Her fingertips swept across the profound phoenix ring, and a palm-sized jade box appeared in her palm. Yi Qing Luo passed the box over. Everyone swallow one pill before entering. The box was passed down one by one, and after those youngsters swallowed the pill, that pungent moldy smell instantly disappeared, and their noses were filled with a refreshing smell. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about the youngsters' dumbstruck expressions. This was the fresh air pill, which she had refined through the night. The corpse qi in the tomb was dense, and as it was in the dark all year round, the air would definitely not circulate well. If one was slightly careless, it was possible to be corroded by the yin qi. Hence she specially refined this kind of low-grade medicinal pill, which was of little value. The few of them had just stepped into the tomb entrance when Xiao Jin and Yin Xiaoyi carried two huge luminous pearls as they walked at the front. Tong Ziqing and Long Yunjian walked at the back. The entire pitch-black cave became much brighter. The tomb's rock walls were still dripping with water. It was cold and smooth to the touch, extremely disgusting. If it weren't for the fact that these youths couldn't smell this stench, they would have probably vomited by now. However, the strange totem that was outlined on the dripping rock walls, as well as the feeling of yin qi assaulting them, made them feel an inexplicable sense of irritation. More than 90 people walked with trepidation, for about the time it took for half an incense stick to burn. Yi Qing Luo suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her gaze was fixed on a certain spot, and her expression suddenly became cold. "Gather! Be careful!" The 90 or so mercenaries immediately moved closer to their brothers, looking around vigilantly, with a serious expression on their faces. After a moment of silence, the surroundings were quiet. Apart from their breathing, there was no other sound. The youths remained vigilant. Yi Qing Luo slowly walked past Xiao Jin, and walked to the front as her gaze swept across the surrounding rock walls. Her half-squinted charming eyes, in this strange tomb, seemed especially gloomy and cold. The corners of her mouth curled into a cold smile. She moved her 5 fingers, and a red feather fan appeared on her fingertips like a flame. "You have the guts to follow, but don't have the guts to show yourself." Her words had just ended when Yi Qing Luo's figure suddenly swayed, and in a blink of an eye, she seemed to have blended into the air. Immediately after, Yi Qing Luo's figure appeared beside one of the rock walls, and her 5 fingers pinched the top of the rock wall. Chapter 800. When the rock wall was peeled off, there were hands, legs, and also a head. His neck was pressed against by Yi Qing Luo's feather fan. The youngsters were instantly shocked as they looked at the person in Yi Qing Luo's hand, who was like a rock wall. Following that, the crowd reacted swiftly as they looked at the surrounding rock walls, staring at those strange contours of the rock walls. Xiao Jin and the others had already leapt up as they speedily pounced towards the direction of those rock walls. No wonder when they entered the tomb, their hearts felt extremely uneasy and inexplicably gloomy. It turned out that ever since they entered the tomb, they had been targeted. Xiao Jin and the others moved, and those rock wall people who were attached to the rock walls also gave up on their disguise. One by one, they flew out from the rock walls and directly charged towards the 90 over young mercenaries. Luckily these youngsters had already been trained by Yi Qing Luo and the others, and their reaction speed was extremely fast. At the instance when the rock wall people charged over, The young mercenaries swiftly got into formation, as they swiftly drew out their own weapons and retaliated. It looked like these rock wall people totally didn't care about their comrade's life and death. Or perhaps, the person in her hand was merely a small fry. Yiqing Luo's fingers locked onto the person in her hand as her feather fan curled slightly, drawing a beautiful arc. Her fingers opened up and the rock wall softly fell beneath her feet, as fresh blood mixed with the wet soil on the ground. Following that, Yiqing Luo's feet moved as she dashed into this chaotic battle. There were around 20 over rock wall people, and their bodies were plastered on the rock wall as a disguise, but it didn't affect their battle agility at all. Their teamwork was also very orderly. Every move seemed to be compatible with their companions. It was extremely natural. Their attacks were extremely ferocious. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and after a few twists and turns, she landed next to Xiaobo. Xiaobo, these people's skills don't look like an ordinary organization. To put it more accurately, they didn't look like professional killers from the killer hall. Their skills and moves, as well as the degree of tacit coordination, on the contrary. It seemed like a certain team. I discovered it too. Xiaobo raised his leg and fiercely kicked away a cliff man that was pouncing towards him. His face was slightly pale. The opponent is very strong. At the very least, his profound rank should be above Mystic Profound rank 3, and his moves are very direct. Indeed, when she saw the ambush, Yiqing Luo's first reaction was, these people were the killers sent by Shengguan Liuli. But after fighting for a while, Yiqing Luo had completely dispelled this idea. Shengguan Liuli, Yan Zhan and Jitsong Tian, these three people absolutely didn't have such a powerful trump card. Otherwise they would have taken it out long ago as their capital to flaunt their prowess. Could they be from the Blood Demon group? Or, the two of them were discussing when suddenly that rock wall man who was kicked away, under the support of his comrade, suddenly made a turn and directly attacked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as she swiftly retreated. However, he was still a step too late. The rock man's 5 fingers had already locked onto Yiqing Luo's wrist. Yiqing Luo flipped the feather fan in her right hand and swiftly struck towards the rock man's head. That rock wall man wasn't afraid at all as he directly clasped Yiqing Luo's left index finger, as his fingertip moved slightly. However, in the next second, the rock man was dumbfounded. Even though his face was disguised by the rock wall, it couldn't conceal the other party's expression. Yiqing Luo's left index finger was encircled by a demonic red glow, as the profound phoenix ring stuck onto her skin tightly. No matter how much strength the rock wall man used, it was unable to make the profound phoenix ring show any signs of falling off. Yiqing Luo's gaze instantly turned serene. Chapter 801. The rock wall man crashed onto the sharp rock wall with a bang. Those sharp stones pierced right through the rock wall man's heart. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and looked at the profound phoenix ring on her finger. The other party's motive was the profound phoenix ring? After finding out the destination of her mission, they specially disguised it as a rock wall, just to snatch the profound phoenix ring when she was unprepared? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she thought of the rock wall men's skills in chemistry that Xiaobo had analyzed. Could it be? Not Godless Island's people. A lowly voice with an extremely cold tone came from behind him. That pink dumpling unknowingly stood behind her. Its empty and soundless eyes gazed at Yiqing Luo as it repeated word by word. Not Godless Island. Yiqing Luo's expression changed. Not Godless Island. In her memory, there was only that one time when Godless Island sent out the 3 evils to snatch her profound phoenix ring. Other than Godless Island, who else would be interested in the profound phoenix ring? Could it be that the news of her possessing the profound phoenix ring had been leaked out? No. It couldn't be. If the Overlord's profound phoenix ring fell into the hands of a frail young lady, it would definitely be snatched by numerous high-leveled cultivators who didn't want to possess the Overlord's divine relic. Moreover, Mo Ying's appearance and Godless Island seemed to have some kind of unexplainable relationship. When she first met Godless Island's 3 evils, she met Mo Ying. Today, The moment she thought of whether these people were from Godless Island, Mo Yu-ing immediately denied it. How could Mo Yu-ing be so sure? Qing Luo, you have the soul-chasing powder on you. Long Yunjan's cold voice revealed a hint of solemnity. He swiftly went forward and grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm. He saw a green glow on Yi Qing Luo's elbow, faintly flashing. If one didn't look closely, it was impossible to detect. Yi Qing Luo's fingertip brushed past that green glow, and indeed a thin layer of powder was swept off. Her half-squinted eyes, under the illumination of the luminous pearl, were suffused with a faint cold glint. The soul-chasing powder, as the name suggested, would chase the soul to the ends of the earth, relentlessly following it. It was used to track a person's whereabouts. He only needed to sprinkle a bit of soul-chasing powder, and he would be able to track that person for up to 3 days. As for the soul-chasing powder, it would melt upon contact with water. The person who had been poisoned by it would not even notice it. Who were you in contact with last night? Long Yunjan asked solemnly. Last night, after leaving the Three Springs sect, she went straight to the old house. Wait a minute, Three Springs sect? Yi Fengru. Yes, at the dinner table yesterday, Yi Fengru sat next to her. No wonder he had inexplicably mentioned her situation in the academy to Yi Tianquang and the old ancestor, and even told them about her refusal to enter the class of gods. This method was clearly to let Yi Tianquang and the elder ancestor's attitude affect her emotions, and then take the opportunity to sprinkle soul-chasing powder on her arm. What was his purpose in doing this? Why would he want to know her whereabouts? Could it be that the ambush by the rockmen had something to do with Yi Fengru? Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned increasingly gloomy and cold. She casually wiped the dripping water on the rock wall and dissolved the soul-chasing powder on her arm. When her vision was fixed on the rockmen again, her lips suddenly curled into a chilly smile. The feather fan in her hand was like a dancing red flame, constantly blooming the most beautiful fireworks. Her action was extremely fast. The target of these rockmen was originally to snatch the profound phoenix ring. But for some reason, the profound phoenix ring could not be removed from Yi Qing Luo's hand. Chapter 802. These youngsters were able to see through all their attacks in the shortest time possible, and after pondering for a few breaths, they were able to come up with a set of methods to restrain them. Their power of understanding and potential was simply too shocking. Immediately, one of the Rockwall men decided to retreat. But unexpectedly, just as he said this word, a gust of chilly wind struck him. The Rockwall man had not regained his senses when a tight, icy cold sensation pressed against his neck. By the side of his ear was a young lady's enchanting laughter. Who are you? To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. This was an unchanging logic since ancient times. These people didn't care about their comrades' lives, so the only way was to ferret out the leader among them. Indeed, those 10 over Rockwall men who were still alive all stopped their attacks and gathered together as they stared vigilantly at Yi Qing Luo's direction. That Rockwall man didn't seem to have expected that he would be suppressed so easily. That red feather fan on his neck seemed to have no lethality at all, but the higher-ups had specially instructed him to be careful of the red feather fan in Yi Qing Luo's hands. The Rockwall man didn't dare to move. He didn't say a word, and Yi Qing Luo was neither anxious nor impatient. She calmly flicked her fingers, and the red feather fan cut open the rock wall, which the Rockwall man had disguised himself, as it stuck close to his skin, leaving a shallow mark. Fresh blood oozed out. There's someone else in the tomb. Who actually entered Ling Ling King's tomb before us? Damn it! Thinking of how dangerous Ling Ling King's tomb was, no one dared to explore, so we didn't send anyone over to guard last night. I didn't expect. Forget it. Let's go over and take a look first. The voices of several people came from the direction of the entrance of the tomb. Their voices weren't soft and sounded extremely spacious. Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned as a glint flashed past her eyes. The Death God mercenary group's men had arrived. Just as Yi Qing Luo was looking at the tomb entrance, the rock wall man on her wrist took the opportunity when she wasn't prepared and struck towards Yi Qing Luo's chest. Following that, his entire body squatted down. Yi Qing Luo acutely sensed the danger and swiftly evaded, giving the rock wall man a chance to escape. But in a blink of an eye, that bunch of rock wall men drilled into the tomb entrance and disappeared without a trace. Trying to escape? Xiao Jin's expression changed greatly, and he was about to give chase. However, at the corner of the tomb, a group of people walked out and stopped them. A group of about 30 people came over. He was wearing a blue mercenary group uniform. The front and back of the clothes were embroidered with a large kill character using golden thread. Standing at the very front were two delicate-looking youths holding night-luminescent pearls. Then, there were 3 people with extraordinary auras. 2 men and 1 woman. The expressions on their faces were almost cold. The most eye-catching person was the woman. She was so beautiful that she didn't seem like a mortal at all. Just a single glance at her would cause one to fall head over heels for her. After seeing this lady's looks, that whatever 3 spring cities number 1 beauty Yi Qing Qian, whatever southern continent's beauty Lan Ling Nua, had completely turned into dregs. The 2 men by her side, one hot and one cold, were like the woman's guardian deities. Who are you people? Do you know what this place is? Who allowed you to come in? A sharp and rude voice came from behind the 3 men. Yi Qing Luo and the others then discovered that behind those 2 men, there was a 14 to 15-year-old delicate young lady. A series of questions bombarded down, making Yin Xiaoyi, who wasn't in a good mood, frown tightly. We haven't asked who you people are yet. Do you know what place this is? This is a tomb. Don't tell me this is your house. And you don't allow us to enter? Puffed. The youngsters couldn't help but burst out laughing. These words were simply too sarcastic. Chapter 803. You. The young girl's face sunk as she pointed at Yin Xiaoyi and said angrily, "Who do you think you are? To actually dare to humiliate this young lady like this? Do you believe that I won't let my brother kill all of you?" When Yin Xiaoyi heard this, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. Her beautiful eyes curved. I've only heard of people relying on their fathers. This is the first time I've heard of someone relying on their brother. I don't have a brother. I'm so scared. Perhaps the girl was well protected and had never been treated like this. With just a few words, the girl's eyes reddened. Xiaoyi. Linner. 2 voices spoke at the same time. It came from Yi Qing Luo and that otherworldly beauty opposite her. Their eyes met, and their gazes met for an instant. Yin Xiaoyi gave a light harumph towards that side and kept her mouth shut as she returned to Yi Qing Luo's side. On the other side, the girl who was called also shrunk back unwillingly. Yi Qing Luo's expression turned slightly chilly as her charming eyes revolved with a chilly glint as she stared fixedly at the 2 men and 1 woman. Hand them over. The beautiful woman frowned slightly. Her beautiful face was covered with a layer of worry that made people unable to help but worry. However, the woman's voice was extremely cold. She's just a child who doesn't know any better. Why must you be so overbearing? You know what I'm talking about. Yi Qing Luo's voice was even colder than her, and the sharp glint in her eyes was like a sharp blade. Otherwise, I can suspect that your death god mercenary group is in cahoots with those people. Long Yunjian's expressionless face instantly darkened as his azure blue eyes flickered. You mean, yes. Yi Qing Luo responded calmly as her lips curled into a cold arc. If it wasn't for the appearance of the death god mercenary group, that group of rock wall people wouldn't be able to escape so easily. The beautiful lady's eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't open her mouth to stop Yi Qing Luo. If that group of rock wall people wants to escape from the tomb, the only exit is the entrance of the tomb. Just now, it was the god-slaying mercenary group that came from the entrance. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into an increasingly chilly arc. As the 3rd place on the honor roll, would the death god mercenary group let off any unknown person who ambushed them? The answer was absolutely impossible. On the other side, the god-slaying mercenary group remained silent. Yi Qing Luo wasn't annoyed as she smiled. I only have 2 guesses. First, those cliff men are from the god-slaying mercenary group, and the people who attacked us are from the god-slaying mercenary group. Secondly, the death god mercenary group has a close relationship with the cliff people who attacked us. silently waiting for Yi Qing Luo to finish her sentence. That beautiful lady then curled her red lips and slowly took a step forward. Her attitude was still cold and arrogant. Little girl, since you know who we are, you still dare to point your spear at us. Aren't you worried about affecting your mercenary group? An irrelevant answer. Therefore, he changed the topic. A threat? Yi Qing Luo chuckled. Since the Death God mercenary group doesn't dare to deny it, then it means that they have admitted what I said. Since the Death God mercenary group has already targeted my group, why should I worry about whether it will affect my group or not? To tell the truth, Yi Qing Luo really hadn't thought about it. He would clash with the Killing God mercenary group right from the start. However, thinking about it, it made sense. She was able to find out from the 3,000 peach blossoms that the Death God mercenary group was going to King Ling's tomb for a mission. The Death God mercenary group naturally knew that the world group was going to King Ling's tomb for a mission. But what made Yi Qing Luo puzzled was, why was the Death God mercenary group's target the profound Phoenix Ring? Chapter 804. After thinking for a moment, Yi Qing Luo suddenly came up with a guess. Her expression suddenly became dignified and complicated. Who is Yi Fengru to your Death God mercenary group? This was the only conclusion Yi Qing Luo could come up with. From the beginning, she felt that this seemingly gentle second brother was not as simple as he looked. With just the power of one person, he was able to manage the entire Three Springs sect, and all the expenses were under his control. He was obviously a student of the Heavenly Academy, but he was so low-key that she didn't even know the existence of her second brother in the 2 months she was in the academy. It was enough to show his means. Last night, from the expression of Yi Tianquang and Old Grand Madam, she could tell that Yi Fengru had not returned home for a long time. In other words, Yi Fengru knew that she was at home and deliberately came back. His purpose, in addition to sprinkling the soul-chasing powder on her, was also to confirm the ring on her hand? Clap, clap, clap. A crisp applause came from behind the Suicide God mercenary group. Soon after, a slender figure slowly walked out from the crowd. That handsome face that was as gentle as jade. If it wasn't Yi Fengru, who else could it be? The corner of his mouth held the usual gentle smile, constantly applauding, a pair of gentle eyes full of smiles. Worthy of being my seventh sister, so quickly guessed my identity. Yi Fengru's appearance confirmed that what Yi Qing Luo said was all true. Second brother? Yi Fengru looked at Yi Fengru incredulously, his eyes widened. Yi Fengru smiled. Eighth brother, long time no see. Yi Fengru was stunned in place, unable to believe that his gentle and elegant second brother was actually a member of the Death God mercenary group, who was ranked third on the honor list. And he even colluded with the Death God mercenary group to plot against Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo looked at him coldly, her eyes were cold. Does Yi Tianquang know? It seemed that he didn't expect Yi Qing Luo to call out Yi Tianquang's name without any scruples. Yi Fengru was slightly startled and immediately laughed out loud. So what if I know? So what if I don't know? Father didn't know that the useless daughter he had always looked down on had quietly grown to such an extent. At this point, Yi Fengru's laughter became more and more insolent, and the gloominess in his eyes couldn't be concealed no matter how gentle he was. Holding a fickle weed in your arms like a treasure, but treating a real treasure like a weed. Ha ha ha. This is indeed Lord Father's style. Whoever Yi Tianquang likes to treat as a treasure has nothing to do with me. Yi Qing Luo snorted coldly. I'm just curious, why did he make a move on me? If I were to say that I'm simply interested in the ring on seventh sister's finger, would you believe me, seventh sister? Yi Fengru smiled warmly. The expression on his face had already returned to its usual gentle and calm state. The eyes that looked at Yi Qing Luo were filled with sincerity. Yi Qing Luo sneered without hesitation. I don't believe you. Ha ha ha. Yi Fengru laughed heartily. His chest heaved up and down as he laughed heartily. Since that's the case, seventh sister, please hand over the profound Phoenix ring. He was very direct. Reason. Yi Qing Luo walked slowly to the front of Yi Fengru and stood still. There was no change in the expression on her face. However, Long Yun-jan and the others were all nervous. The opponent was a gold-ranked mercenary group. Even if there were only 30 people, they had no chance of winning. What's more, there were definitely many Death God mercenary group outside the tomb. Chapter 805. Seventh sister is still young. Such a precious thing. It's better to hand it over to second brother for safekeeping. Yi Fengru's smile was still warm. He stretched out his hand and slowly placed it on Yi Qingluo's shoulder. Like a brother, loving his sister, he patted her on the shoulder, his arm up and down. Yi Qingluo's eyes turned cold, and just as his arm was about to fall, the hand holding the feather fan flipped over and pressed against Yi Fengru's arm. At the same time, Yi Fengru's figure retreated a few steps. That extended arm, the powder hidden in the gaps of his nails, scattered down like smoke. You dare to poison Qingluo? Xiao Jin's expression was extremely ugly as he clenched the gold coin darts in his hand. As though the moment the command was given, he would absolutely fight to the death with the other party. Poison? The young mercenaries' expressions changed immediately as they looked at Yi Fengru with vigilance and disgust. Yi Qingluo squinted her eyes in interest. She should be glad that her nose was sensitive, and when she got close to Yi Fengru, she could smell the faint herbal smell on him. This was the herbal smell that an alchemist would have on them. But the smell on Yi Fengru was not like an ordinary alchemist's fragrance. But it was a kind of strange smell. Very faint, almost undetectable. If she didn't guess wrongly, Yi Fengru should not be an orthodox alchemist, but a dark alchemist. The so-called dark alchemist was not like ordinary alchemists who refine those kinds of stabilizing pills to raise their profound grade, heal injuries, etc. What they refine were all kinds of strange and complicated poisons, like soul-chasing powder, corpse-dissolving powder, etc., were all refined by dark alchemists. Seventh sister's reaction is really fast. No wonder eldest sister lost to you. Yi Fengru didn't seem to be flustered from being caught red-handed poisoning. He only gave a gentle smile as he wiped off the powder hidden in his fingernails. But no matter how fast seventh sister's reaction is, no matter how powerful you are, I'm afraid you won't be able to fight against 4 people. His tone was gentle and indifferent. Those 30 over Death God mercenary group's mercenaries cooperated as they took a step forward. How could Xiao Jin and the rest fall behind as they also took a step forward? Yi Fengru swept them a glance as his brows couldn't conceal the disdain in his eyes. Moreover, you still have a bunch of burdens behind you. I'm sure seventh sister won't bear for them to get into trouble. Burdens? The young mercenaries' expressions turned extremely ugly as they gritted their teeth and stared at burdens. This seemingly cultured and refined man, why was his words so irritating? Yi feng yi. That pair of enchanting and charming eyes, like the bright stars in the sky, flowed with charm. Under the illumination of the luminous pearl, it seemed to flow with an extremely captivating charm. Even Yi Fengru was momentarily absent-minded. His gentle brows overflowed with gloominess as he lost his patience. Second brother is only advising seventh sister. A wise man submits to circumstances to save yourself unnecessary trouble. If we were to start a fight, where are you injured? And how many of you die? Seventh sister will feel heartache. Isn't that so? Yi Qingluo seemed as though she had heard a joke, as her slender fingers covered her pink lips, as her long and narrow eyes outlined a sneer of ridicule. Second brother, did you really think that only you know how to poison? She, who was under Ghost Doctor's tutelage and had the 100-pill refining ability, wasn't some orthodox alchemist. She had dabbled in stabilizing pills or poisons and the like. Chapter 806. Looking at Yi Qingluo's smiling face, Yi Fengru's gentle pupils suddenly widened. As though he was struck by lightning, he froze on the spot. The next second, Yi Fengru's hand covered his chest as his face turned pale, as his slender body staggered and fell backwards. Ru! Fengru! Brother Ru! The 3 people behind, upon sensing Yi Fengru's abnormal state, immediately rushed up to support him. Yi Qingluo, What did you do to Brother Ru? The young lady's hands hugged Yifeng Ru's arm tightly. Her face was filled with hatred and resentment towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Her fingertips brushed past her chin. Her pink lips moved slightly, as she said word by word, just giving her a taste of her own medicine. I believe, with second brother's ability, it should be no problem to cure this poison. Yifeng Ru's breathing suddenly became hurried. The muscles on his face were trembling slightly. The 5 fingers which were pressed on his chest gradually tightened, clenching into a fist shape. The green veins were already bulging. Cure? If he could cure this poison, he wouldn't be in such a sorry state. Yifeng Ru only felt a sudden numbing feeling in his heart, followed by a sharp pain, as though it was being pierced by needles. Before he could adapt to this pain, his heart suddenly inflated, as though it was about to explode any time. Yifeng Ru had refined poison for more than 10 years, but had never met such a strange poison. The more he thought, the more obvious the swelling feeling in his heart became. His entire face was twisted, as his hands were clenched tightly, in extreme pain. That young lady's eyes were red, as big beads of tears flowed down. Brother Ru. Brother Ru. The beautiful lady's eyes were cold, as she looked at Yiqing Luo coldly. Hand over the antidote. Since I'm going to die anyway, why don't I drag you all to accompany me in death? Yiqing Luo smiled charmingly. You all think that you're so smart, but it's just the remaining tricks that I'm playing. What was a wise man submits to circumstances. If she really handed over the profound Phoenix ring, would the Death God mercenary group really let them off? Yifeng Ru knew the origin of the profound Phoenix ring, so naturally he knew the original owner of this ring. Yifeng Ru did not dare to offend Dmo Xian. Furthermore, they had to maintain the reputation of the Death God mercenary group. Once their objective was achieved, none of the world group would be able to escape. Yiqing Luo was tired of playing this kind of lousy tricks in her past life. Yifeng Ru coaxed her like she was a child. You. The young lady's eyes were red as she clenched her fists tightly. She was so angry that her whole body was trembling, but she couldn't do anything to Yiqing Luo. These 2 men and 1 woman were obviously the core members of the Death God mercenary group. They were extremely concerned about Yifeng Ru. This also meant that Yifeng Ru's position in the Death God mercenary group was not low, and he was brothers who had gone through fire and water with these core members. This knowledge made Yiqing Luo heave a sigh of relief. Yifeng Ru's life was in her hands. The Death God mercenary group would temporarily not make a move on them. The 2 groups of people faced each other, and no one moved. Only Yifeng Ru's increasingly ragged breathing and his pained voice resounded in the spacious tomb. The more she listened, the sadder she cried. The 2 men and 1 woman's expressions turned uglier by the minute. As though there was no other way, one of the delicate-looking men opened his mouth with a steely green face. The world group will let you leave. Hand over the antidote. Did I say that I'm leaving? Yiqing Luo's eyes curved as she smiled in an extremely casual manner. The beautiful lady's willowy brows creased into a bundle. Don't push your luck. Chapter 807. His words caused those people to choke, their expressions unsightly, but they had no way to retort. Yiqing Luo's gaze lightly swept past Yifeng Ru, whose face was filled with pain. Her gaze was indifferent, totally not like she was looking at her second brother, but an insignificant stranger. She didn't care whether he lived or died. The few people in the Death God mercenary group didn't dare to use Yifeng Ru's life to bet if Yiqing Luo really didn't care about him, this second brother. Recalling the time when he was in the dark, he saw Yiqing Luo expressionlessly slit the neck of the stone wall man. His technique was skillful and his expression was cold. It was completely unlike the emotions a 15-year-old girl should have. At this moment, the god-slaying mercenary group only felt that this lady was too cold-blooded. He was so cold-blooded that he couldn't feel any emotion from her. After a long time, the beautiful woman lowered her eyes and looked at Yifeng Ru, who was leaning against her arm. She opened her mouth and said, "What do you want?" "Mission." Yiqing Luo replied simply, "I need the Death God mercenary group to help us complete the mission." The Death God mercenary group did not participate in the random missions. But they were aware of the situation of this event. The Matter of the World group drawing a random scroll, which had never appeared in all these years, had already spread throughout the entire mercenary world. What kind of mission did you draw for the tomb of the Ling King? Guard the Zombie King. Yiqing Luo didn't hide anything. She had originally planned to borrow the strength of the Death God mercenary group to see if they could complete the mission. Now that such a good opportunity had been presented to her, how could she reject it? Guardian Zombie King? The expressions of the two men and one woman instantly turned ashen. They looked at each other and frowned. Up until now, no one has been able to enter the deeper layers of the tomb. The place guarding the corpse kings is in front of the tomb's main tomb. Even we can't reach that place. You don't need to tell me whether or not you can do it. Yiqing Luo replied coldly. My motive is to guard the corpse king. You only need to tell me to go or not. The beautiful woman's exquisite and beautiful face was slightly twisted. The three of them looked at each other for a long time without saying anything. They were probably using the mercenary group's emblem to communicate with each other internally. Yiqing Luo didn't rush them, as she quietly waited for their decision. Not long later, the beautiful lady's face sunk as she looked at Yiqing Luo. All right, I represent the Death God mercenary group to agree to your request. Now can you help Ru to detoxify the poison? Yi Fengru, who was leaning on the woman's arm, couldn't help but tremble. It was clear that he couldn't find anything strange in Yi Fengru's body, even with his profound qi. However, Yi Fengru was in so much pain that he had already lost consciousness. Looking at Yiqing Luo's confident look, it was obvious that only Yiqing Luo could cure this poison. The more the young girl thought about it, the angrier she became. Her eyes were filled with disgust and mockery. I really don't know what your heart is made of. You can even kill your second brother and use him to threaten us. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as her lips twitched coldly, as she sneered in disdain. Kitty Li was leaning on Yiqing Luo's side, and when she heard the young lady's words, she was instantly infuriated as her quick-witted eyes stared fiercely at the person opposite. He was obviously the one who struck first. He's allowed to lay a vicious hand on his own sister. But elder sister isn't allowed to retaliate? Saying that, she took a step forward and raised her hand fiercely. I'll give you a slap and you're not allowed to retaliate. Chapter 808. Kitty. Yiqing Luo calmly called out to Kitty Li. Kitty Li winked at that young lady and gave a heavy harumph. When she turned back to look at Yiqing Luo, her face was already smiling sweetly like a child. Yiqing Luo pulled Kitty Li behind her and shot a glance at the solemn-looking man's hand as she smiled calmly. Azura group leader must be careful. If you hurt any part of my brother, I will leave it untouched and let my dear brother suffer the same injury. The man's tightly clenched hand suddenly loosened. A pair of sharp eyes stared coldly at Yiqing Luo, as though he wanted to see through her eyes, to see through her soul. However, the man only saw an endless whirlpool in that pair of deep pupils. Just a little more, and he would have fallen into that whirlpool, unable to climb out. Both parties reached an agreement. Yiqing Luo wasn't that silly to help Yi Fengru detoxify the poison. She only helped Yi Fengru to alleviate the pain in his heart. Every 2 hours, Yi Fengru would once again experience the excruciating pain that pierced his heart and bones. Azura mercenary group was naturally infuriated, but there was nothing they could do. After Yi Fengru regained consciousness, he found out that Azura mercenary group had signed an agreement with Yiqing Luo because of him. He clutched his heart, and the moment he thought of that swelling pain earlier, his body couldn't help but tremble slightly, which had already formed an instinctive fear. Yi Fengru had just stood up with the help of 2 men. When he raised his eyes, he met with a pair of beautiful smiling face. The young lady's smile was enchanting. Her long and narrow eyes were extremely charming. Her pink lips opened and closed. Her sweet voice, word by word, was clearly transmitted into his ears. Thank you, second brother, for your advice. If it wasn't for Yi Fengru, Yiqing Luo would definitely not use such means to threaten the Azura mercenary group to cooperate. Yi Fengru heard the sarcasm in Yiqing Luo's words, and his body trembled. almost falling onto the ground. This completely explained what was called moving a rock to smash one's own feet. After signing the agreement, Yiqing Luo also found out that the solemn Azura mercenary group leader was called Nangong Firen. That delicate-looking man was called Wei Beilai, the Azura mercenary group's executive group leader. The beautiful woman was called Zi Qianqian, and she was the vice-captain of the Azura group. The 14-year-old girl was Nangong Firen's twin sister, Nangong Lin. She wasn't a mercenary of the god-slaying mercenary group. She just followed them to gain some experience. After understanding everything, Yi Fengru was well rested and could move on his own. The two groups of people headed into the depths of the tomb one after the other. Yiqing Luo made the Azura group walk in front to open up the path, while they followed closely behind about 20 steps to the left. Qing Luo, can they be trusted? Xiao Jin's brows creased as he used the mercenary group badge to transmit his voice. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a cold arc. Untrustworthy, but there is still value in using him. With just their strength, it was likely that they would not be able to pass through the layers of traps and formations in the tomb and reach the main tomb. Before Yi Fengru could find a way to save himself, the god-slaying mercenary group could only fulfill their deal. Everyone be careful, in case these hypocrites do something secretly. Yiqing Luo reminded them. The god-slaying mercenary group had always been ranked third on the honor board. So naturally they were arrogant and proud. So how would they be willing to lower their status to deal with these youngsters? Especially when they were threatened by a bunch of youngsters who totally didn't put them in their eyes. It was inevitable that they would use the same method to threaten them. If Yi Fengru had poisoned her brother, Yiqing Luo couldn't guarantee that she had all the antidotes on her. Just as she was saying that, the god-slaying mercenary group, who were 20 steps away, suddenly shouted angrily, "Not good! There's a riot in the tomb!" Immediately following that, the 30 over god-slaying mercenary group's mercenaries turned around and swarmed towards them. The world group's youngsters were immediately on high alert, as they displayed a defensive formation. Suddenly, a deafening sound rang out beside his ear. Chapter 809. The entire tomb started to shake violently. Pieces of gravel started to fall from the surrounding steep rock walls. Nangong Firen was running at the forefront, and on seeing this bunch of young mercenaries still standing there foolishly blocking the way, she angrily shouted, "Get lost! Do you want to die here?" As the ground shook, cracks began to appear on it. The young mercenaries still didn't move as they supported each other, and stood on the same spot, waiting for Yiqing Luo's instructions. Towards danger, Yiqing Luo had an instinctive sense. When the tomb started to shake violently, Yiqing Luo felt an unprecedented sense of panic. Faintly, there was an intense scorching feeling surging from her profound jade heart. This scorching feeling wasn't the same as when she was probing other people's profound jade heart grade, or profound grade, but it was a kind of, like a raging fire was lingering around her profound jade heart, as though there was an intense reaction. Yiqing Luo suppressed this discomfort as her gaze swept across the Azura god group, who had already flocked over. Her face turned slightly pale as she berated sternly, "Idiots! If you don't want to die, don't run over here." The tomb's ground had already cracked, and the surrounding rock walls had fallen into gravel. If they were to move swiftly now, it would only cause the tomb to collapse. Now they were only at the periphery of King Ling's tomb, and this place was the easiest to collapse. If it was as expected, the entrance of the tomb had already been blocked by the collapsed boulders. The Azura god group's people actually made such a huge commotion as they tried to run back. Wouldn't it accelerate the shaking of the tomb's periphery, which was originally on the verge of collapse? When had the Azura god group ever been scolded as idiots? And it was even scolded by a young lass. So how could they feel at ease? Get lost! The Azura god group had already rushed over to their side, as Nangong Firen bellowed with a steely green face. "You're hopelessly stupid." Yiqing Luo took a step back, as she avoided Nangong Firen's outstretched hand. This action made the scorching feeling in her chest become even more intense. She could even feel that there was a ball of extremely vigorous flame burning in her heart. Rumble! Just at this moment, The place where they were standing shook violently as the ground collapsed. Everyone's feet were on empty ground as their bodies rapidly fell downwards. Everyone's faces were filled with shock and fear. Only Yiqing Luo shut her eyes tightly as her face overflowed with pain. Her slender, white little hand firmly pressed down on her profound heart jade. For some reason, she felt as if there was a voice by her ear, constantly calling out to her. However, she could not hear the summoning words clearly. Yiqing Luo and the others were in the tomb, and didn't know that the entire outside the tomb was filled with dark clouds, gloomy and gloomy. In the air, there was a suffocating chill. From time to time, lightning flashed, thunder roared, and wind and clouds rose. A powerful storm current rushed into the sky from the center of the tomb. However, in an instant, the storm dissipated into thin air and disappeared. The imperial palace. This strong movement made Dmo Xian, who was bending over the table and handling some matters, frowned. As he stood up, his gorgeous purple robe fluttered in the wind. His black hair cascaded over his shoulders like clouds and smoke. His slender figure was smooth and incomparably breathtaking. However, the man's peerlessly handsome face and his long and narrow obsidian-like black eyes clearly had a faint demonic charm. But at this moment, there was a thick and cold glint. Chapter 8:10. The moment the World Group's mercenaries fell under Yiqing Luo's instructions, they used their profound qi to lighten their bodies, and finally landed stably on the ground. As for the Azura group, they were not so lucky. The sudden collapse made them unable to react for a moment. When Nangong Firen and the others saw Yiqing Luo and the others' actions, they immediately released their profound qi, totally disregarding their own group members. When the group of people stood firmly on the ground, there were no casualties on the World Group's side. As for the God Killer group, 2 members had fallen to their deaths, and there were more than 10 who had hurriedly released their qi when they landed. But in the situation of being too flustered, they had injured their legs. Where are we? Nangong Lin, who was hiding behind Nangong Firen, asked in a trembling voice. Nangong Firen's face was ashen, and she did not reply. The 2 mercenary groups had met with an accident at the same time, but on their side, there were casualties and injuries. On the contrary, the brat mercenary group that they looked down upon was unscathed, and they began to adapt to the current situation in an orderly manner. How could he, the leader of the gold mercenary group, endure this? Captain, Yi Fengru's expression didn't look any better. The night luminescent pearls in their hands had fallen somewhere, and the surroundings were dark. Don't speak. Yiqing Luo suppressed her voice as she spoke in a deep and cold voice. Xiao Yi, where's the luminous pearl? As Yan Xiao Yi and Xiao Jin were falling, they quickly kept the luminous pearl into their space pockets. In a place like the tomb, the luminous pearl was their only source of light. Hearing Yiqing Luo's question, Yan Xiao Yi immediately took out the luminous pearl. The surroundings were faintly discernible under the illumination of the luminous pearls. Then, Xiao Jin also took out his night luminescent pearl. The surrounding environment was gradually reflected in everyone's eyes. This was a bottomless tunnel. It was extremely spacious, about the width of 10 adults walking side by side. The air was cold and damp, and there were even green vines growing on the walls. Touching it with his hand, it felt sticky and disgusting. This should be the middle layer of the Ling King's tomb. Yiqing Luo carefully sized up the surroundings. From the emptiness of the voice and the circulation of the air, he could roughly tell. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. The Ling King's tomb had always been the most secure place, and most people would not enter it. How could the periphery of the tomb collapse? That kind of collapse was like a sudden earthquake. Then the entire tomb began to crack and finally collapsed. Completely, it did not seem like a natural collapse. Instead, it was a collapse caused by the depths of the tomb. Could it be that someone had entered the tomb before them, or even reached the lowest level of the tomb, and then triggered some sort of mechanism that caused the tomb to collapse? How do you know that this is the middle level of the Ling King's tomb? Zi Qianqian's beautiful eyes stared coldly at Yiqing Luo, as a glint of jealousy flashed past her eyes. Ever since Yiqing Luo appeared, her beauty and her ability seemed to have been crushed by Yi Qing Luo, till she had no way to retaliate. Zi Qianqian, who had always been the center of attention, could not tolerate another existence that was even more dazzling than her. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't bother about Zi Qianqian's question, as she concentrated all her attention on the surrounding environment. Zi Qianqian's face darkened, and an embarrassed look appeared on his face. He arrogantly raised his head and lightly snorted. You really think that you are the backbone of the group? You casually order others around and spout nonsense. Do you take us for fools? Chapter 8:11. You. Don't be in a hurry to deny it. Yi Qing Luo glanced at her coldly, and in the tranquil and strange tomb, that gaze seemed especially eerie. Immediately after that, Yi Qing Luo turned her head around and continued looking at the direction where the green vines were growing as she said, Now, the one who is at a disadvantage is not us, the world group. This sentence successfully made Zi Qianqian shut his mouth unwillingly. Indeed, no matter if it was facing a sudden danger situation, they weren't able to be as calm and composed as Yi Qing Luo, accurately giving out instructions. It was their own group members who were able to make the most correct decision under the circumstances where they didn't have any instructions. They couldn't even match up to the world group. They suddenly understood why the world group was able to advance to a bronze plate mercenary group within a day, if they were allowed to develop. In future, there would definitely be a spot for them on the Mercenary Association's honor board. Nangong Firen's expression instantly congealed as she glanced sideways at Yi Fengru. Yi Fengru's face was pale as he shook his head. He didn't know when his cowardly and incompetent seventh sister had become so bold and courageous. Bones! Bones! Human bones! Suddenly a sharp shriek exploded from the crowd. Nangong Lin was hysterically hugging her head as she recklessly charged over. Her petite body crashed into Yi Fengru's arms as her arms wrapped tightly around Yi Fengru's waist. Brother Ru, these are all dead people's bones. Boo-hoo boo-hoo. Although Yi Fengru had slowed down the poison in his body, but Yi Qing Luo hadn't cleared it for him. Now that he was knocked into by Nangong Lin, Yi Fengru felt a piercing pain in his heart. Although it was short, but that piercing pain made Yi Fengru feel a chill down his spine. Without thinking, he directly pushed Nangong Lin away. Nangong Lin was unsteady as she was pushed onto the ground, as both her hands stabbed into the sharp rocks on the ground. Missy's delicate skin was instantly melted by the rocks as red blood seeped out. Blood! Yi Qing Luo's expression instantly turned gloomy as she berated sternly. Block up the blood! This is a tomb and human blood is the easiest to attract yin qi. The young lady was in so much pain that her tears kept flowing, but she didn't forget to raise her head, wanting to argue with Yi Qing Luo. But the minute she met Yi Qing Luo's pair of chilly charming eyes, she was frightened by her imposing manner, and didn't dare to say a single word, as she directly pounced into Nangong Firen's arms, crying out in a low voice. Nangong Firen frowned and glanced at Yi Fengru coldly. He saw Yi Fengru clutching his heart with a pained expression on his face, as if he hadn't noticed his gaze at all. Nangong Firen frowned and looked away. He quickly took out a handkerchief and stopped the bleeding on Nangong Lin's palm. Nangong Lin was still trembling, and tears streamed down her face. It was hard to tell if it was because of the pain, or because she was sad that Yi Fengru had pushed her away. Over the years, thousands of grave robbers and mercenaries have come, but the furthest mercenary group has only reached the middle layer of the tomb. This is enough to show how dangerous the tomb is. Yi Qing Luo's voice was extremely cold and calm, as she walked slowly to the corpse's bones, which had caused Nangong Lin to scream earlier. Under the illumination of the luminous pearl, there were about 100 sets of human bones. Perhaps it was because of the passage of time, many of the white bones had already shattered, and the layers of white bones looked extremely eerie and terrifying. Yi Qing Luo squatted down expressionlessly as she scrutinized those human bones and continued. The number of tomb robbers or mercenaries who died in Ling Ling King's tomb is uncountable, so it's not strange to see human bones. Chapter 8:12. Even for these mercenaries who had been through hundreds of battles and were used to seeing blood and killing, when they saw the hundreds of broken bones piled up, they were somewhat horrified. Even if they weren't horrified, they weren't able to be like Yi Qing Luo, looking at those bones expressionlessly, or even using her feet to lift the bones. The bones shattered upon contact. The shattering sound was extremely ear-piercing in the quiet tomb, making one's heart palpitate. Yi Qing Luo was only a 15-year-old young lady. How could she be fearless when facing these eerie white bones? A real 15-year-old girl's way of opening up the eerie white bones should be like Nangong Lin's. This should be a mercenary group who came to the Ling King's tomb to complete a mission. They must have touched some array in the tomb or attracted the corpse qi, causing all of them to lose their lives here. Yi Qing Luo played it down as she stood up and gazed ahead. Since we've reached the middle layer, then let's head straight to the main tomb. Nangong Lin buried her head in Nangong Firen's arms as she raised her head and cried, "I'm not going. I don't want to go." After seeing so many white bones, Nangong Lin, who had never met with any danger, was so terrified that her limbs had turned stiff. Yi Qing Luo merely swept a glance at them as her lips curled into a chilly smile. "Of course, you can choose not to follow us. If my second brother's poison acts up, then don't blame me for not abiding by our deal." Nangong Firen and Zi Qianqian instantly stared at Yi Qing Luo angrily. I don't have the time to waste with you guys here." Yi Qing Luo called out to her brothers as she walked straight ahead. It was silent in front of them. The long and deep tunnel was pitch black, with no end in sight. Nangong Firen and the others were still standing at the same spot. He glanced sideways at Yi Fengru as he frowned and asked in a deep voice, "Can you cure this poison?" Yi Fengru didn't reply, but the sound of his teeth clenching and his pale face had already replaced all the answers. Nangong Firen's brows creased even tighter as a cold glint shot out from his eyes. "Then we must follow you to the main tomb." The coldness in his words made Yi Fengru's face turn paler. Nangong Firen was blaming him. In other words, Nangong Firen was displeased when he pushed Nangong Lin's lower body. Yi Fengru wanted to explain, but he didn't know how to start. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't have enough ability, if it wasn't for the fact that he had underestimated Yi Qing Luo's ability and heartlessness, then he wouldn't have shot himself in the foot, and wouldn't have ended up being used as a tool by Yi Qing Luo to threaten him. Just then, a gust of chilly wind blew over. Nangong Lin's entire body was trembling, and tears were already flowing out of her eyes. "I don't dare. Brother, let's leave the tomb, let's go home." Nangong Firen gently patted the woman in her arms and sighed helplessly. "Linner, I'm here. If we leave and your brother Ru is poisoned, you'll cry again." Nangong Lin recalled Yi Fengru's pained expression, and her whimpering stopped. He couldn't bear to see Yi Fengru suffer. But if they followed that arrogant woman, it was very likely that they would also become one of the millions of bones. While they were discussing, Yi Qing Luo and the rest had already walked far away. The luminous pearl's light gradually went further away, and the tunnel which they were in became pitch black and dim. Not long later, they couldn't even see the expressions of the people around them clearly. Chapter 8:13. Looking at the pitch-black surroundings, Nangong Firen clenched his fists tightly as he hugged Nangong Lin tightly and gave an order. "Follow up." Now they could only follow the world group. In this pitch-black abyss, they who didn't know where they were in the King Ling's tomb could only follow the world group to find a chance to exit. Moreover, their mission target was in the middle layer of the King Ling's tomb. The world group wanted to make use of them. So why didn't they make use of them instead? The world group's youngsters followed behind Yi Qing Luo in an orderly manner. Zhao Bo turned back from time to time to take a look at the Death God mercenary group, who were still at the original spot with a puzzled expression. "Vice Group Leader, are we really going to leave them here? If they had the Death God mercenary group's help, it should be much safer for them to walk around the King Ling's tomb." Vice Group Leader had signed a deal with the Death God mercenary group. Wasn't it to make use of them? Yi Qing Luo shot a glance at him with a smile which didn't look like a smile. "They will follow up." Zhao Bo didn't believe it. a gold-ranked mercenary group on the honor board, had been humiliated to such a state by a mere bronze-ranked mercenary group. As long as the Death God mercenary group had some backbone, they wouldn't possibly continue to trade with them. However, this thought had just flashed past Xiaobo's mind when he heard a series of orderly footsteps. Turning back, he indeed saw Nangong Firen leading 30 over mercenaries, following them in quick steps. Xiaobo was stunned as he looked at Nangong Firen in puzzlement. He has no other choice but to choose us. After a few words of interaction, Yiqing Luo could roughly understand Nangong Firen and the other's character. Nangong Firen was someone who cared about the big picture and wouldn't be tied down just because of a small matter. Moreover, the poison in Yi Fengru's body was something that only she could cure. Towards the Death God mercenary group following them, the World Group's mercenaries didn't open their mouths to tease or ridicule them. They only followed Yiqing Luo solemnly. The group of them remained silent as they followed closely behind. The deeper they went, the colder they felt. Under the luminous pearl's glow, the air seemed to be lingering with a thin layer of fog. It was the kind of gloomy fog. It was grayish and extremely terrifying. Everyone stepped on the gravel, and the sound was especially ear-piercing under the silent and strange atmosphere. Every sound was like something was ruthlessly pounding on their hearts. He felt an inexplicable palpitation and nervousness. The expressions of the mercenaries of the Azura team became more and more solemn. Their footsteps also gradually became extremely heavy. Nangong Firen also felt the atmosphere as she looked at the expressionless and silent youths of the World Group. She clenched her teeth and berated them from the Mercenary Guild badge. Keep your spirits up. You are the elite mercenaries of the Gold Mercenary Group. Don't tell me they can't compare to those bronze plate mercenaries who haven't even grown their hair yet. The mercenaries of the Killing God Guild were scolded badly. Under the glory of the Gold Mercenary Group, they were used to being arrogant and competitive. Naturally, they were not willing to admit that they were inferior to these bronze plate brats. However, in the strange and dangerous tomb of the Ling King, there was an unknown danger ahead. They had no idea what would happen in the next second. How could he not be afraid? Looking at the fearless young faces of the world mercenaries, he could only attribute their fearlessness to the fact that they didn't know what kind of dangerous place the Ling King's tomb was. Chapter 8:14. The group of them had walked for an unknown period of time, and even for these cultivators who had been practicing martial arts for many years, they could feel the fatigue in their legs. The seemingly bottomless tunnel finally showed some changes. The further they walked, the narrower the tunnel became. From the original 6 to 7 people walking side by side, they gradually shifted backwards, and finally it became Yiqing Luo, who was walking at the front, forming a straight line. Yiqing Luo's heart, which was hanging in the air, also sunk slightly. Earlier, based on the direction of the green vine's growth, Yiqing Luo had determined the direction which led to the bottom of King Ling's tomb. After walking for such a long time, she started to doubt her own judgment. Finally, she saw the change in the shape of the road, which proved that her determination of the direction was not wrong. This kind of narrow road, after walking for about an incense's time, there was a stone wall in front, and there was no other path. Yiqing Luo stood in front of the stone wall, and was sizing it up when a young lady's barbaric voice was heard from afar. Hey, do you know how to lead the way or not? This is basically a dead end. Along the way, Nangong Lin could no longer hold back the anger, which had accumulated in her heart. Now, on seeing Yiqing Luo leading a dead end, the disgust in her heart gushed out. A small mercenary group is just a small mercenary group, totally ignorant. You chose this path so casually that I really thought you were sure that this was the exit. You dare to randomly choose a path in the tomb. It's still alright if you meet a dead end, but if you meet with other mechanisms or arrays, and cause us to get injured, you will be a sinner. All these knowledge were what Nangong Firen was worried that Nangong Lin would be afraid along the way, so as they walked, she softly taught her some common knowledge on going out for experience learning. Nangong Lin was rather smart, and after she memorized all these, it was just the right time to give Yiqing Luo a tight slap on her face. Yiqing Luo totally ignored Nangong Lin's hooting as her gaze was still on the stone wall, as her half-squinted eyes revealed some seriousness. Seeing Yiqing Luo keeping silent, Nangong Lin became even more complacent as her voice rose by a few notches. The world group's trash. If you want to leave the tomb alive, you'd better follow my brother obediently. Just based on the few of you empty shells, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave even after another 500 years. Nangong Firen frowned and pulled her sister into her arms. Although she sounded like she was blaming Nangong Lin, she didn't explain what Nangong Lin had just said. In other words, Nangong Firen agreed with Nangong Lin. Yiqing Luo originally didn't want to bother about Nangong Lin. However, the words that Nangong Lin said had angered her. His protective heart was immediately filled with anger. She slowly turned around, her gaze as cold as a torch. There were dozens of people between the two of them, but unfortunately, when Yiqing Luo's gaze fell onto Nangong Lin felt a chill running down her spine as her entire body started to tremble. Following that, they heard Yiqing Luo's cold and indifferent voice rang in the spacious tomb. If you're really that powerful, just leave. There's no need to follow us. Nangong Lin flew into a rage out of humiliation as she struggled free from Nangong Firen's arm and pointed at Yiqing Luo as she berated. If it wasn't for the fact that you, this vicious and evil woman, had poisoned Brother Ru, would we even care about following you? Oh. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as the smile in her eyes turned colder. Then ask your brother. If my second brother wasn't poisoned, would he choose to form an alliance? Yiqing Luo intentionally used the word form an alliance. She was giving Nangong Firen a way out. Enough. Nangong Firen naturally wouldn't answer this question as he directly grabbed Nangong Lin's arm and stared at her, indicating for her to shut up. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.